Hello.
I done fucked up. It's fine.
Kara, I gotta ask, was it called Who's Your Daddy? Because I think
Yeah,
that
it
would be
was.
That's
it was
amazing.
that's appropriate for our
yeah.
topic tonight. So
Yeah.
slightly, I mean, related, I suppose.
I thought I had changed it, but I realized that in my process of trying to get the camera to work, I closed OBS and then reopened it, and it didn't save it. So there's that. It's fine.
I mean, we do have a daddy in chat, so I feel like it's fine.
We
I
got
guess,
to dads.
yeah. So the question is easily answered, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
Who's your daddy? Is Des.
Yeah.
There you have it. The show's over. We solved the puzzle.
Good night, everybody. Thanks
night,
for coming.
bye.
Yep.
Okay. First off, welcome to LessThan3NPC. This is a show where myself and my friends talk about stuff that's too serious to talk while playing video games, because sometimes our brain space is too busy with motor functions and problem solving
And chasing babies.
Motor functions.
and chasing babies, following people around, avoiding contacts on the internet. I don't make friends on the internet. That's the joke. Sorry. I had therapy today, so I moved all my shit around. So
I'm trying to hide things from your therapist.
yeah, basically I realized I'm like, I have all this stuff that I'm like, oh, don't show them that. That's over here. But yeah, so first off, let's introduce ourselves. We'll start with Des.
Sup, internet? I am the daddy Des. I am a resident internet goblin creature person. I am non-binary. I am me. I do stuff on the internet. I make porn on the internet mostly. But when I'm not making porn on the internet, I'm having discussions and having opinions.
Very good. Joe?
My name is Joe, also non-binary. In terms of myself, I spent nearly a decade in the sexual violence sector as an educator, but currently I'm a lifeguard and swim instructor. And then I also do video game things on the internet. I stream outside of LessThan3NPC. Yeah, that's a little about me. And Kara. Who's Kara? Who is Kara?
Good question. Lots of things to think about in that direction.
Truly, this is therapy part 2.
This is therapy. I can't have 2 therapy sessions in a day. No, 1 hour is plenty. I can't. Hello, my name is Kara. She, her pronouns. But basically, I try to make content. It's an ongoing struggle because I want to make different things for myself, but I'm not there yet. But I work on movies. It's all right.
Yeah. You do stuff.
Yeah, I do stuff. I make documentaries about people making porn on the internet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which was just at a local film festival, by the way.
It was.
Yeah.
I feel
that was
like
so nice.
end of an era though, because I feel like now the film has kind of like reached its festival run, and now we have to figure out where it's gonna go.
Yeah. But
that's life.
Yeah. That was fun. It was fun, like, kind of getting to close it out in your hometown.
It was. I agree. It was like kind of interesting that way. Didn't think it was going to get a local screening, and then surprise.
I do have to ask: are you going to try for SIF, or is the window closed to that?
The window is closed on that one. Yeah. So that's it. That's all done. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that.
No, that's a different podcast.
That's yes. I would love to make a documentary about what we're going to talk about tonight. So the main topic for this evening is bodily autonomy. The very overbranching concept of that. We have to prerequisite deliver a disclaimer about this. Okay, first off, I know this can be very politically charged topic, right? And it's fine to have differings of opinions of this stuff, but what we cannot have happen in chat or between ourselves as well is that we have to keep the conversation civil and in the understanding of people have rights to their bodily autonomy. And if you don't agree with that, we need to have either a discussion in a civil manner, or this may not be the place for you to be.
Basically.
That's how we're going to lay that out. So again, it's not to say that we can't have people voicing difference of opinions, but we do need to make the baseline understanding that every human being on this planet has a right to control what happens on one of these things. Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
Meat suit. Control over
meat
our own
suit.
meat suits. Yeah.
Anything to add about that from either of you?
No, that sounds good. Just
Yep.
just reminding everybody that we are all people. We are all people with differing opinions, and we're gonna be civil and we're gonna be cool, and we're gonna talk about stuff that is important to us, and that's what you guys come here to listen to and to hang out and have fun. And it's not gonna be all dour.
No.
Because at some
No.
point, because we're heading up with bodily autonomy, and once we feel like we've sort of let that run its course. If it does, I mean, we could take the entire 2 hours and talk about bodily autonomy. It's not.
I mean, that's a lecture series
Yeah.
topic,
Right.
right? So we could
But
be
I
here
mean,
for the week.
I'm not a professor in bodily autonomy, so I'm
No,
gonna be real
but
straight up about that.
if we do get to a second topic, it will be children.
Yeah,
Uh,
the little
Which is
meat
obviously
suit.
related. Yeah.
yes, which is
Oh, I
obviously
hate meat
related.
suits, Joe. I can't do it.
You
Hey,
don't
it's
like the word. You don't like meat
I-
suit.
I don't
It's
like
it's
it.
I
a
like meat
it's a
suit.
staple in the tattoo community, as far as I'm
Oh,
concerned.
okay.
As
All
far
right.
as I understand, anyways.
It's
And
just.
can I just
I
add
just like
one other
calling my
thing?
body my meat
Oh,
suit.
sure.
Just that I think in terms of the topic that we're addressing and where we're going to go and stuff like that, I think just for folks in chat, like we want to address questions that people might have, as long as they are in good faith and all that kind of stuff. So if somebody does have a question in chat, we just ask that people allow it to happen, and we'll try and address it. And if we can't, maybe we'll ask chat. Otherwise, we'll direct people in a direction where they want to go. And so just that if somebody does have a question, and maybe if it does seem maybe on the less than informed side, just let that question exist, and we'll try to address them as they come. Just we don't want folks to maybe necessarily jump on questions that may be being asked in good faith.
Yeah.
Aside from people that are clearly here to pick a fight, those questions will sift themselves apart and out of the conversation. But questions are welcome.
Yeah, we're going to assume positive intent unless someone is definitely just being an asshole.
Yeah.
In which case, probably just not even going to address it.
See, Goki, meat popsicle is not better.
Meat popsicle is worse. That implies the thing is frozen.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Meat suit, at least suits
Where
don't
have I
come
heard meat
frozen.
popsicle before? That feels like meat popsicle. There's
Meat
a
popsicle sounds like a little more like
A corpse,
you
like
eat
a serial
popsicles.
killer. No, it's
You know.
like a serial killer thing.
Oh, I mean,
cryogenics.
meat suit feels like a
Cryogenics.
serial killer thing too.
Fifth
From the
element.
Fifth Element.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you,
Wait.
Goki. Yeah. I knew I heard that concept before.
Meat popsicle.
Meat popsicle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Multipass. Sorry. Okay.
That film did not stand the test of time, but it still has its own merits, I think.
All right, let's jump into it. Bodily autonomy.
Yeah.
That thing, that concept, that which tells us, hey, you have control over your own body, and nobody should have the right or the entitlement to do things to your body without your permission, expressly informed.
Yeah.
That is a concept that is kind of overarching throughout the world, whether or not it is people believe that people should have bodily autonomy or people don't believe bodily autonomy. Oh, again, bodily autonomy is, we talk about a lot of these like terms here on this show that they themselves are neutral. Like consent being a neutral term. But I think this also applies. Like bodily autonomy is a neutral term. It is a term for a phenomenon, a pattern of like an idea, a thought.
Yeah.
A judgment. But some people can think that that's an okay thing, and some people don't think that that's an okay thing. I
Well,
mean,
it's because it's a not okay thing for certain people because you are effectively changing the perspective of what the value is attached to bodily autonomy. Like, but we'll get into that.
I mean, the obvious example and the thing that is currently in the newsosphere is abortion. But something that people don't really attribute to bodily autonomy is things like people in the prison system, people in the military, like those people who essentially either are sentenced to no longer be graced with the idea of bodily autonomy or sign up to give up their bodily autonomy, as in the military. Because the military can tell you to put whatever they want in your body. Like, they can just, you have to get 18 vaccines tomorrow. You are in line.
Yeah.
You're in line at 6 a.m. Like,
yeah. See, that's such an interesting thing. I never even thought about that because in Canada, the military is not a common entity or path in life. Like it's honestly one of the biggest differences that when I visit the States versus being home is like you hear the things at the airport about, like service members get to board first and like you see them everywhere and everyone's in uniform and you see the videos of like the soldiers coming home to the basketball games and stuff like that. I'm like, that doesn't happen here at all. It's so sorry to have the body autonomy to attach to that. I was like, wow, shit. Yeah. Never
like there's a like I don't know what exact percentage, but there's a percentage of people who either went AWOL or were dismissed from their positions for not wanting to get the COVID vaccine because it was mandated by in the US. It was mandated by the US military that having any sort of military position meant that you had to get the COVID vaccine.
right.
And like, I know just because I'm still I still have friends who are either active in the military or in reserves or ex-military, because kind of just that's just kind of a thing that happens, is that you know people in the military because there are so many fucking people in the military here.
Right.
But most of the people I know who are currently in the military play instruments, so
Right. A little
And
bit
the
of different
army-
involvement on that one.
the army band. But still, even then, like army band has like less than a 1% chance of ever deploying because in the order of operations at which they send out different units, like the band units are like the last ones to go. Like the trumpet players and the flute
Right.
players, they're the last ones to go.
Your clarinet skills are very useful at home, so we are going to keep you as long as possible.
Yes, that's exactly it.
I understand. I mean, I don't want to make light of that because I'm sure like you still have to go through all the same training, right?
Oh yeah, you still have
get
to go
into
through
the military and
basic,
everything.
like you still have to go through your physical every year, like you still, and usually like they have other jobs, like it's not just that they play the clarinet or whatever. But yeah, it's they still have to go through some of this stuff. I won't say all of the things because I don't know specifically.
Yeah.
Also, each being in the Navy band and being in the Army band are like different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about kind of reproductive rights or reproductive control of our body. There's the military. What's some other things that we can think of that your body autonomy is attached to?
Prison.
Prison. Okay. What else?
Well, I think I was just going to add on to the initial definition that like bodily autonomy is a bit of a weird definition. And again, I want to emphasize the neutral side of things. It's basically the concept that you have a right to control your own, as we were talking earlier, meat suit, and and that anything that happens to your meat suit through the actions of another person is a violation, right? As long as it's happening without your consent, it's a violation. And so bodily autonomy is a very broad term But again, due to recent events in Des's homeland, it's really come to the forefront of conversation, specifically around those who carry children to term. And so I think, I don't know, I kind of want to focus on that right now because it's obviously it's prevalent and present in our minds and stuff like that. And I think it's, I don't know, it's I've been trying to regulate myself around this because I think bodily autonomy is something that really guided a lot of my work when I was working in the sexual violence sector, because that, again, is another area where bodily autonomy comes into sort of the main sort of focus of conversation. And it's really frustrating to encounter in a sort of bureaucratic, like government level, that's okay kind of thing, relatively speaking, where there are people who think that certain body autonomy is not okay, right? So a person's right to carry a child to term or to not is something that needs to be regulated. Any other circumstance, society takes a dim view on it. So again, I go back to sexual violence. Lots of discourse aside for the moment, generally, theoretically speaking, the idea that somebody choosing to sexually assault another individual is seen as a bad thing because it's a violation of that person's bodily autonomy, right? The person who experienced a sexual assault from somebody else is seen to be a victim of a crime, right? Because we take a dim view on that violation of bodily autonomy. And yet, there are people out there who believe that carrying a child to term is something that supersedes that bodily autonomy, which, to be perfectly honest, is bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take that
100%.
stance. It's bullshit.
Yeah, 100%. The reason I wanted to kind of talk about it in a broad sense, or at least kind of put it into some context in a broad sense, is that like things like consent and bodily autonomy, when people who don't interact with that language every day hear it, they usually hear it just in terms of sex and abortion.
Yeah.
And it's like, but we
It
exercise.
goes beyond that.
Yeah, we exercise this thought that you have a right to control what happens to your body in lots of different ways. Organ donation is a huge one. Like even when you're dead, if you did not in the US, if you did not consent to donating your organs while you were alive, then you are still assumed to have autonomy over your body after it is dead and no longer of use.
Yep.
To you.
Same here, actually. Same in Canada.
Yep.
Yep.
Organ donor,
Same.
the process in Canada is pretty streamlined. Well, in Alberta anyway. It's like if you ever renewed your license, you go in and you say yes or no, and then you get a very detailed list of the pieces that you would be willing to give away. So
We don't get that. It's just
yeah,
we
it's
get
not like a blank card.
No, ours is a blank card. Do you
Oh,
want your
interesting.
organs to be able to donate it? And then you say yes or no, and then you get
Yeah.
a little sticker on your driver's license that says organ donor, and that's
Yeah.
it.
Okay, interesting.
I didn't get to
we
choose.
can choose.
I didn't get to choose, actually, because I recently updated my license and it was yes or no, and I got a little heart on my card.
Yeah, you're supposed to be able to pick.
But I don't know why you could have my liver but not my spleen, like, I don't know.
Hey, different things. Different reasons
Take
for different
take
things.
what you need,
Hey, I love the specificity that I got to choose from. I was like, any major organ, go for it. I got a little creeped out when they're like, can we take your skin? And I said no. So
Why?
judge me if you wish.
I
don't
will
know.
judge you a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Okay,
I don't want
weird.
you I want my skin.
It's for
on my body.
skin grafts.
Yeah.
It's for like burn
Sure.
victims.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the one I didn't pick.
It was a little too Silence of the Lambs for you.
I don't know.
Kara visions someone cutting off her face. Just
a little bit. I remember I read it and I was like, no, you're not allowed to take my skin.
You can't take my skin. I am not telling anybody that they are allowed to take my skin. I am taking a hard stance on that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they could take but that was the thing, though. For me, it was a very interesting process because I was like, I get to choose, and that was a choice that I got to offer, and it felt good. So
hmm
I don't know. Maybe I'll change that someday. Maybe I won't get so freaked out by it. But yeah, that was the one thing I didn't check off.
I mean, mine's gonna have tattoos all over it, so I don't know if people want my skin at that
Yeah.
point, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So,
Mhm.
but I mean, they can take it if they want, but it'll
Yeah.
look weird if
I
they
don't know. I
stretch
don't
this
know that
out.
anybody
You know?
would want my organs.
Oh, I got prime organs. I mean, unless I die of something, don't take
I don't
that.
know that they. I don't know that they will though, because it. Okay. Well, first of all, the thing that you are most likely to die in is a motorcycle accident, at which they wouldn't be able to take your organs anyways, because like that's one of those things that they can't take organs from, is like if your organs are crushed, then they can't take them, they can't use them.
Well,
But also like certain medications and stuff will
That's
Mm.
fair. Yep.
nix you from being able to
Yep.
donate. It's actually like a pretty, as far as I understand it, it's a pretty like in-depth process, like
Mhm.
checkoff list as to what qualifies you to being an organ donor.
Mhm.
hmm
Like I don't know that anybody would want my liver or my
Yep.
lungs.
Not mine. I plan to use all my organs. Thank you very much. So if they
I mean,
happen
I'm
to be
gonna
in working
use them,
order,
but once they're done, once I'm done using them, like somebody else can have them.
well, it's just like is somebody really going to get the mileage out of it that they really hope so. I mean, it's not up to me. I'll be dead, so
Yeah,
who
I mean,
cares?
if they get
yeah.
10 more miles than they would have had, then
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm. Just
Anyways.
FYI, real fast tangent. I met a doctor up in Edmonton who's like working on transplant technology.
yes.
And I think I showed maybe both of you this video
Yes.
before. I'm not gonna show it online because it's very it's blood and hearts and stuff like that. But his process is like changing how organs are delivered for organ transplant. So the modern day is like, okay, you have a potential donor, the organs are viable, they cut them out, they put them on ice, and they like travel to somewhere. But he's like working on this thing where you like specifically hook them up and push blood through it still, so the organ never stops working and
Ooh,
theoretically could indefinitely be available to like whoever needs it next.
Ooh,
that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
and kind of horrifying because you can imagine like a heart storage facility with all these
Like a
hearts
heart
pumping out.
bay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, that like my heart like grows like 10 sizes by that concept. I was like,
Or like a
oh, it's
liver.
like a heart farm.
There'd be a heart farm, a liver farm, a
Yeah.
kidney farm,
Yeah.
It's like a server room, only it's full of hearts.
or
Right.
And they're
livers
all
or
But then
kidneys
like
or whatever.
the scary part is that I'm like, oh, who can abuse this system?
What are you gonna do with a bunch of hearts?
Well, people do
Corner
weird
the
shit.
market. Make people
Yeah.
pay $7 million for a heart. You know,
But anyway,
capitalism can ruin anything. Capitalism can ruin anything.
It's true.
return back to conversation.
Capitalism is another episode, Joe.
Yeah.
I hate capitalism. Let's get that out of the way. Just saying that. Also, yes, cat.
Where we were oh right, we were talking about like
Bodily
just
autonomy.
yeah, the body autonomy, but like in the context of like where does that go beyond? So we're talking about donors,
Yeah.
the different contexts in which we lose the rights to our body. I was using air quotes for if you listen to this on an audio thing. It's what I think the discussion of this evening is really dropping on is how do we in our societies that we live in, like I can't speak for any other country except for the one
Mhm.
that I live in, right? Because every country is different. What by definition do we see the conversation leading down of like how do you define body autonomy versus how do you control body autonomy? Because there are people who believe in controlling it
Mhm.
is the proper way how society should function, whereas the other side, and obviously there's a million other tendrils in different directions for people, but the two big ones are like control over body autonomy or knowing body autonomy is a right and is sacred in that fashion,
Mhm.
and that means an individual has control over their bodies no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think because it's topical really in this moment, considering the effects of is it official now? Has it gone through?
Doesn't go
No.
through until June.
So theoretically, if things keep going down the path that they are currently going down, Roe versus Wade would potentially be overturned in June in the United States of America, which I haven't read all the descriptions of it. It has a major effect on whether or not people can have abortions or not. But there's also a huge like privacy component to it.
Yes.
You know, because here's the other thing that I have people having a hard time recognizing is like body autonomy also is attached to the information about your body.
Yeah.
So, you know, your health records and kind of anything that goes, you know, beyond that, whether or not it's in a confidential situation or not, that is also part of your body autonomy. In my opinion, I don't know if that's a legal stance or not. So
I
that's
think for the most part, is from like a medical records perspective, like doctor-patient confidentiality, all that stuff. Like knowledge about your status as a human is also protected,
mhm,
as far as I understand it, anyways.
right.
Yeah, I mean, in the U.S. we have HIPAA, which is, I can't remember what the actual an acronym stands for, but it's basically like the stuff that happens to you medically and the things you discuss with your doctor, like within certain there is like exceptions. It's like if you're talking about, committing suicide with your psychiatrist or murderous feelings with your psychiatrist or your doctor, like usually they're, or like, a child is experiencing child abuse or something, like there's like an oath that doctors go through where it's like they're sort of mandatory reporters in that sense. But like your medical history, the things that are happening to your body, like the things that like your health and the things that you discuss with your doctor are like protected.
Yes.
Like your doctor can't give out that information and nobody else can like seek that information without some sort of legal thing like a warrant.
Right.
Yeah.
Goki says the Health Information Privacy Protection Act.
Thank you, Goki.
Yeah. Although I do want to highlight this real quick. This is what Lauren had just mentioned. Your phone tracking your movement and health. So this is a part of information that a lot of apps hide in their terms and conditions. When we talk about body autonomy, that a lot of these companies are actually collecting that information off of you.
And again, I only saw this through a tweet, but it came out because of what's happening in the US. But someone was advocating that people delete their period tracking apps if they use one, because it could be used as evidence against you in a court case if you did seek out an abortion. So
yeah,
and that's sort of the danger of where this thing is going. Is it's really giving ammunition to a lot of anti-choice folks on criminalizing not just abortion, but anything related to contraceptives, choosing when to have children or not. Like it's quite fucked up. Way it's going, and it's not going to stop with abortion. I think there's lots of advocates out there that are talking about like same-gender marriage is next. Interracial marriage might be on the table. Like there's no end because of the way they're looking at eliminating Roe versus Wade. There's no end to the ways in which they can roll back rights that are going to impact BIPOC people mostly.
That's sort of the shitty thing about the system and I mean, I'm also not the type of person to give into the fear mongering, because that conversation is like, that's a snowball thing where it's like they could, but then they could, but then they could. It's like, it doesn't mean that they're going to. And it doesn't mean it just, and even like saying that they could at any point do any one of those things.
Yeah.
Because that's just how our system works. It's the people at the top, they just decide whatever's kosher and then fuck off. So Roe versus Wade, like being overturned, puts us in more danger, but the danger was always there to begin with. And also, kind of, because I'm not gonna make pretend like I know the legal specifics of all of the shit, because that is not That's not my area of expertise. So I'm gonna not speak a ton on that. But when, like, we're talking about bodily autonomy specifically, there are situations in which people's bodily autonomy is removed from them for no fault of their own. Things
Mhm.
like if you have dementia and you have to have a caregiver and you have to be given your medications and your doctor prescribes you a thing and you don't really have the autonomy or like the brain power to be like,
Mhm.
this is good or bad for me. You don't make that choice. It's like somebody else
Mhm.
makes that choice for you. Somebody else is determined to be your executor of state and like or whatever. Like they're chosen to be your representative, and then that person makes decisions for your body. Or
Yeah.
for like a conservatorship,
Yeah.
the thing Britney Spears went through, because she was deemed to be mentally incompetent and suffering a lot of things. Her bodily autonomy was removed, um, and she was taken advantage of for it for many years by her
Mhm.
father, and her lawyers,
Mhm.
which I think speaks to the core of my rage. In that when we remove bodily autonomy in those cases, it is because we feel that that person cannot make healthy decisions for themselves. Even when we send people to prison, like the reason that they are put in a tiny box is because the world, like who people, judges, juries have decided that you are unsafe to yourself and others. Like
Mhm.
you are not capable of being a person in regular society. Women are capable of being people and making their own decisions. People, I will say, people who can have children
Mhm.
are capable of making their own decisions.
Yeah.
And I think that is the core of my rage. Like, not
Yeah.
whatever the legal stuff, and like, it's just there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what decisions we're capable of making
Yeah.
in a moral sense. It's like, well, clearly, like, and a lot of the stuff I see, the stuff I see is like, well, if you just make it legal everywhere, then like people just be having abortions like crazy, like it was
Mhm.
like birth control. No, abortions are hard.
Mhm.
They're very painful. They're like even Plan B is like weeks worth of cramps. Like you have to expel that from your body. Like it's not a fun thing. It's not like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm just, I'm gonna have some unprotected sex and then pop a Plan B and go have a mimosa. Like that's not how that works.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. Yeah, no, and here's the thing, and again, I too share the sentiment as like I don't have a lot of legalese behind what the structure is in Canada about this. Currently, I know the basics. I know that under our current system, you can receive the treatment of an abortion without uh any sort of complications in that fashion. Like if you choose to get one, you can get one, and usually at a facility that's regulated and monitored. Um, but that doesn't mean that you still won't have protesters outside these buildings. They're still allowed to have that
Mhm.
happen. Um, but here's the thing: what I can talk about, and this is going to be just very direct from experience of talking to people who do not believe you can have an abortion, just like flat out. And coincidentally, this is, in my experiences, attached to people who were raised in a Catholic setting because that is the system that I grew up in. Um, and the frustration with a lot of this is that with the Catholic and also Christian settings, where the mentality is that you are dismissing a child of God if before they are born in an abortion. Um, is actually not in the Bible.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's it's
doesn't talk about it.
is yeah. So it's more of a formula that was developed by the churches and whoever was in charge at the times. Um and it's been mandated through different systems of power
Mhm.
to these people. That's why that's where the majority of people who are quote unquote uh pro life, if they want to use that definition.
Pro birth.
Real strong quotes on
line.
that.
Pro birth.
That you know, they believe in this thing that conception is at the moment of sperm meeting egg, and that's how. But the irony of that is like the majority of that kind of brain thought was before people even knew sperm met egg. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
they didn't even like. Do you know what I
Like-
mean?
Like
Huh?
people think there's a woman in our history that bore a child to which she did not have sex with a man with.
Oh, right,
or-
right, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And
We're
then-
not going to talk about that.
And yet, they're gonna
And yet-
lecture me
yes,
on science.
indeed. So it's interesting because most of the conversations that I've ever had with these people were not very good conversations. That's the first
Mhm.
thing, right?
No.
They're never met with open thought or consideration. It's this is what God says. This is what I've been told. This is how it shall be, right? And it's troubling when you enter into that space because whenever you don't have people coming to the table to have conversations that are very civil, you get into obviously conflict, and that's
Mhm.
happens all the time. But the most movement, if we could even call it movement, at least there's like a little cog turning in these conversations is usually when you start having what we were talking about just briefly there about having like the process of what it takes to make a decision to have an abortion. Because you're sitting in a space where a lot of people make a judgment where it's like it's just the choice of whether or not you're going to keep the kid or not. It's so much expansive around that. It's like
Mhm.
am I choosing to get an abortion because I know I'm not going to be a good parent? I don't have the situation set up for a child. Is it because I have genetic issues that I don't want to pass down to kids? Is it monetary stuff? I can't afford to have children. Is it I just don't want kids?
Mhm.
You know,
I don't want to risk.
is
I don't want to risk pregnancy.
I don't
Mhm.
want to risk pregnancy. All of these questions go through the people who have to make this choice. Like it's not a perceived like how it's promoted everywhere. It's just like, ah, yeah, just baby murderers. And you're just like,
Mhm.
Yeah, like you've
what?
got an axe. It's like you've got an axe in your hand, and you're like, do I kill the baby or do I don't kill the
Yeah.
baby?
Ooh.
It's like that's not the choice you're making here.
No.
It's not Who's Your Daddy, folks. It's not Who's Your Daddy, the video
not
game.
Who's Your Daddy.
No,
Oh my
it's not babies crawling into microwaves and microwaving themselves. Yeah.
no. But it's really one of those things where people come back to me, and I've actually had this come back to me in this one of these conversations is, well, no one's thinking about it like you're thinking about it, Kara. And I was like, how dismissive of you? How dismissive of your perspective to think that people who choose to get abortions are incapable of having constructive thought
Mhm.
to be
sorry.
able to make those choices.
Did you like for like I like that's also just so dismissive of like parents. Like,
Oh yeah.
that like
Yeah.
that like a parent didn't think any of that through whenever they decided to have kids. Like
Or
they were
that they
just like,
or
"Well,
they found out
I
they were
just
pregnant.
wanted yeah,
know?
like that
A lot of
that-
people have kids and they didn't think it through. Just
no,
FYI.
but like
But
that's
like,
the problem. That
I
is the
know!
problem. Is that
Well,
people
even if they
aren't
didn't think
asking
it
these
through.
questions.
like they found out they were pregnant and they're still like, yeah, let's do this. You know, like
Yeah, but
That's
like they
okay,
took
too.
those things into consideration too.
Yeah.
They just made the other decision.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
not all of them do, but
Yeah,
Listen-
it's just sorry, I just want to point this out before we go too far down the list, but Xandra's putting here from the Jewish tradition is very clear life begins at first breath.
Well,
I
I
like
saw
that.
somebody else through Instagram quote, I think from the Bible, talking about the same thing, Christian Bible. Like there was a like a Genesis 12:2 or whatever. Like there's a paragraph, a section in the Bible that says that life begins at first breath. And apparently there was a section in a Christian Bible that talked about abortion, but only in that it was how to do it properly.
Right.
So
Yeah, and also, I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't care what the Torah, the Quran, the Bible, any of it says about abortion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. Well, and I just to throw my like point of rage in here around this too. Like bodily autonomy is very much something that's guided a lot of my activist work, from the sexual violence to the gender activism, being non-binary myself. But the thing that like fundamentally enrages me about this conversation is that you don't ban abortion. You only make it unsafe. That is the
Correct.
only outcome of regulating abortion. It's not going to stop it. People did for decades, hundreds, thousands of years before. They just died as a result of their attempt to abort the pregnancy, right? So, you know, the cis white women that are voting for this, that are pushing for this overturn of Roe v. Wade, they're going to fly to Canada, get their abortions, and it'll be fine. But hundreds of thousands of other people in the United States won't have the funds to go and do that. And you only make it more lethal. You can't ban it. You won't.
No,
I've watched
has.
I've watched someone go through a home abortion, and it was not pretty. She ended up going to the hospital. Like it's not fun nor pretty, nor, again, it's not something you pop a Plan B and have a mimosa.
Yeah.
No.
Even the drugs that are prescribed for meant to be safe abortions are not fully 100% safe, right? The only way you can assure it is if you have a medical team perform the procedure, right?
And even then there's still risks.
Right? So, and again, anybody that has gotten one has weighed these risks and has chosen, despite the risks, this is still the best option to go down, right? So all you're doing when you're taking away that option of the sort of safe medical procedure is you're just making it more risky for that person to go through that process, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to do it.
Yeah.
They're going to do it.
Sorry, I want to highlight this just because I did bring up Xandra in this conversation. But Xandra was just saying, like, it's because there is such a popular thing, it's in our religion, right? So therefore it must be justified. I think that was the point of, like, not all religions support that you can deny someone this. I think that's that just needs to be clear.
Yeah.
And like, if this was like a, I don't know, like a thing where it's like abortions are just too dangerous in general, like we're trying to protect women or whatever, then I don't know why nobody sits down people in a little room with a slideshow about marrying a man. Because
or birth control.
Sorry, my brain caught up to that one, and then I was like,
or birth control with people with penises, like,
well, no, because like the person most likely to, in a domestic violence situation or in a sexual assault situation, the most likely person to injure or assault you is, for women, your male husband.
And
that's super fucking common. That's so common.
Yeah, domestic violence has some pretty horrifying numbers.
Yeah. But you know, somebody can go try and marry their, male husband, and they don't sit down in front of a slideshow like, think of all the risks, think of all the dangers.
But okay, so
because it's not about the woman.
No, because it's we know this. It's very much laid out, is that this is a rather radical, right-wing evangelical stance, right? It's not to say that you have to be that to have the same views as what a quote-unquote pro-lifer would have, but it's a dominant thinking that exists in a very specific group of people, right? And that group is big enough to make noise about it where they've gotten people involved in government, right?
Mhm.
Or installed their own people into government to make these choices,
Yeah.
right? And that's obviously, well, one, a huge concern. But when you break it down, you're realizing, well, okay, they're coming from a place where they just want control, right?
Mhm.
They want control over how babies are born in a place, right? So I don't know the specifics. I'm guessing some of them are, we don't want white women to abort babies
Mhm.
specifically. And then on top of it, we want people who would otherwise have the choice to terminate some pregnancies to stay in a position that's going to be a challenge for them,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? For me, that's how it breaks down. When you're looking at the people who are trying to push this kind of thinking and stuff like that, right? And it's so manipulative, obviously. But you sit there and you're thinking, okay, so what is the real structure? It really is, when you break it down, the leaders of these groups, who are predominantly men, some of them are women, and you're sitting there and you're going, you just want control over the population to a degree where you're literally trying to control how many humans exist.
I mean, that and how those humans exist, because the
Yes.
people who are least likely to have an alternate solution to pregnancy, um, especially if this gets overturned, are people of low income, are people of color,
Mhm.
are people with pre-existing children who can't afford more children, and like that only puts them under more. That only puts them under the thumb of
Mhm.
capitalism more, because
Yeah.
they can't afford to move up in the world, because they like they're in a financial situation where they're constantly just playing catch up, because like
Yeah.
Right.
kids are just so fucking expensive, and
Yeah.
medical care is so fucking expensive, and
Well,
the
yeah.
people it affects most are the people at the bottom of the pile,
Yeah.
and they don't care about those people.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
and like,
if I needed an abortion, I could afford to go somewhere else to go get one.
mhm. Well, I was gonna say too, a lot of these people are also anti-contraceptives, right? And
Yeah. How
anti-sex education,
convenient.
right?
How
So
convenient.
it's not about pro-life. It's about who is burdened with the financial responsibility of caring for children, right?
Mhm.
And to be frank, it's not supposed to be white people. White people have the mobility and the financial freedom to make that choice, right?
Mhm.
For the most part, and it's hard not to see that intersection, you know.
Right.
Um,
I
it's
mean,
just
in
yeah,
a patriarchal sort of way, it's like how they demonized divorce back in the 50s.
yep,
Like they make it so that you have no other option.
Mhm.
yeah,
And it's like it's so socially unacceptable, and it like even then it was like women couldn't own property, like they couldn't women in our country couldn't have their own credit card until like the 70s.
hmm
Yeah.
Like
You can
it's
have your own bank account for a while. Yeah.
yeah, like it's that level of bullshit where it's like all of the control is going to default to whoever the male person is,
yeah,
and then sort of above that, like as the skin tone gets lighter, the ladder goes up.
yeah, yeah,
Well, yeah, because if you, the reason why I was saying, they're anti-contraceptive, because it's so, when if you think of it, like if you took your consciousness and put it into their circumstances, they think that their reasoning for to deny abortion to all people is like perfectly seamed together, right?
hmm
Because when you authentically believe that the only time you have sex is to have children, that means you will abstain from sex until you want a child, and you're married. Sorry, first off, you're married.
hmm
Then you choose when to have a child, and that's only time you get to have sex,
hmm
right? So it's this weird collection of, things that we've talked about before, is just like pleasure and sexual desire and all these other things. That's also a piece of this conversation, because their perspectives deny you of that as well, right? because sex is only for the purpose of biological replication.
Mhm.
So
Replication.
Mm.
Star Trek.
So it's
Computer.
so interesting when
Make me a
you really
baby.
try to have I think what I'm trying to get at is I try not to have conversations with these people anymore, right?
No.
I
Yeah.
can voice an opinion. I can try to deliver some sense or common sense that I think is applicable to this scenario. But when you authentically believe that the moment that those two cells meet, that is a child, there's no reasoning with it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to narrow it down to just evangelicals, cuz there's also like there's a shit ton of politicians who like feign some sort of religious ideology in order to like
Yeah,
have a backing or
of
whatever,
course.
but
Yeah.
Like,
their mistresses are still going to be allowed to get abortions,
oh, of
Yep.
course.
cuz you
Well,
can
and
send them off
The
just to go
hypocrisy
get
is
one.
real.
and
Let's
that's
be
the point.
honest.
And that's the point I was trying to make earlier, right? Like a lot of these people who are pushing for this are not going to have trouble accessing an abortion, right?
No.
Nor
Mhm.
will they think twice. Xander's pointing it out in the chat here. It's not wrong if it's me, right?
Yes.
They're always going to find some sort of mental gymnastics to justify their abortion, right?
Mhm.
It's again, and that's why I refuse to call it pro-life. It is only anti-choice, right? Because they're not interested in when life begins or whatever. They're interested in controlling people's bodily autonomy, and
Of
that
course.
for me is unforgivable.
Because where do all these people go once the child is born? They go away.
Mhm.
They don't care about the poverty they might be born into. They don't care about the medical issues they might
They don't
have.
care
They
about
don't,
the education
Yeah,
system.
yeah.
you know,
Public education, lunch bills for like 6-year-olds or 7-year-olds. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again,
sorry,
I was
Alex.
Pro forced birth. No,
yeah.
it's not
No,
wrong.
it's not.
Because
Yeah, that's it. That's
because
it.
because even in medical situations in which it would be dangerous for the person who is pregnant to give birth, like there are so many instances, like instance after instance, where those people are forced to carry that baby to term even though it has died inside of them,
Mhm.
Yep.
and
Mhm.
and for a doctor to remove it before it comes out naturally, before birth is induced, then that's illegal.
Yeah.
Even to induce it in some states at a certain point, like, or before a certain point, is illegal
Mhm. Yeah.
because it's considered a form of abortion.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
but so then you
But
got
that's the
fucking
thing.
doctors worrying about losing their licenses,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
their livelihoods.
yeah.
I was just gonna bring up again. I was introduced this concept like probably way before my time, probably way before I should. But like George Carlin had a whole bit on like they're all focused on the unborn, and I'm not going to do his shtick because he's the comedian. But like all the focus is on the unborn. But once they're born, they don't give a fucking shit about these kids, right?
Mm.
There's no support for low income families. There's no support for education. There's no support for medical coverage. There's no
There's no
support
support
for
for single
anything,
mothers.
right? Like, and his whole thing, and he built to it was like they only give a shit about once you turn 18 and can join the military, right? And this whole thing was they want live fetuses so they can raise them to be dead soldiers. That was their whole thing,
Mm.
and he's not wrong.
No.
30 years
And
later, he's not
and
wrong.
with the military, because like the military is not as popular in the US as it used to be.
Mhm.
There's actually a lot of like it there's a lot of desperation for recruits as far as I am aware from the people that I talk to who are currently in the military. And so now they want fetuses to become the workforce
Yeah, yeah. Which
as
is
opposed to the military, which it was in the 70s.
which again is not
Right.
quite as lethal as the military can be, but can still be pretty fucked up when you consider that I don't know. There's what
Living in
five
this country is lethal.
Well, there's 5 video game companies that own every other company. Like we live in the monopoly era, pretty much, right?
Mhm.
And so the fact that like we're looking at increasing the workforce this way, we're looking at increasing the sort of like minimum wage workforce. That's what's
Mhm.
going on here, right? We want this pool of exploitable workers that we don't give a shit about, that can be easily replaced. Blood is cheap.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Meat suits come in every size.
Yep. For the record, that is a reference. Blood is cheap is a reference to an old Irish poem. I'm blanking on the author at this particular moment, but I might put it in the Discord. It's a pretty eye-opening little bit of Irish drama history. Just side note. Yeah. But blood is cheap.
I will also say that like specifically where I am, like there is like a lot of religiosity when like people are kind of referring to this topic, but also because like at least in like my little bubble of Columbus, like that's not as popular. Like so you're sort of reaching, the centrist where it's like yeah, abortion's wrong because, or like it should be like, at a certain point it's like fine, but then at a certain point it's like bad, but also like we shouldn't even really have to worry about it, like it's not going to be a thing, like that people aren't going to be able to get these things. Like there's the hardcore people who are like, only have sex for procreation. All abortion is bad at all
Human
levels.
replication. I don't know how you're saying it any other way.
It's not replication. That's different. That's cloning. Like you have those people who are like so far at that end, and I feel like in my area that is less popular. What is more popular is people who are like sort of in the middle ground about it, and they're really just arguing about the semantics of a thing or arguing about the line.
Yeah.
When the line, like if you have a like, and also like the total dissonance of what they think a pregnant person's experience is. If you have decided to keep a thing for 8 months or 7 months, like you're pretty attached to that decision. Like you're pretty attached to this thing that is growing inside of you. And to just decide that you're just going to have an abortion at the last minute, that's not really that's like a fallacy. That's not super a thing that happens. It's like, the people lying about being raped sort of thing. It's like it feasibly could happen, but if you really look at the reality of the situation, like what person is going to be like, I'm like 7-ish months in, but I've just decided to nix the whole thing. Like I'm not really into it anymore.
Yeah.
Like by that point, you like your hormones are going, the chemicals are going in your brain. You are biologically forming an attachment to this thing inside of your body because that is what we are made to do as humans whenever we become like pregnant. Like and you've had the thing for long enough because we want, like, our bodies want us to procreate. That's what evolution wants. So it's not a thing that people are just going to be like, at 7 months I'm just going to fucking whatever. But when you're only a couple of months in, and usually people don't even realize it until they've missed their like second cycle or past 8 weeks past their past conception. Like once you've kind of realized it and maybe you take a couple of weeks to think about it, like by that time you're already past the 3rd trimester. But like in Ohio we have a 6-week ban where you can't anything over 6 weeks you can't have. Like you can't do an abortion. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
And most people don't know until around 8. Because guess what? Your period could be like, if you're a person who has periods, your period can be off for any number of reasons. Stress, birth control. I am currently on a birth control that does not give me a period. So if for some reason my birth control failed, I wouldn't know.
Yep.
I wouldn't know until I had gained 10 pounds and like started to have a mental crisis about it. Like, like there's so many things that can affect your reproductive system other than being pregnant. So like if you're a day late, not everybody's going to assume they're fucking pregnant and go get a test. And even then, some tests are accurate until later on anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the third trimester abortions is it's a developed marketing misinformation. First off, right? The number of people who have to terminate a pregnancy in the third trimester is almost 100% because of a medical issue that will either, well, most likely kill the carrier of said baby, or the baby has not survived. You know, and that's the thing. I'm not to say it's 100%. Like, I'm sure there are these very, very rare cases, but with the hundreds of millions of people in North America, these are very, very specific cases for them to attach an entire campaign about anti-choice,
Right.
bodily autonomy components, right? You know, shit, I think I posted in the Discord recently how like 6 or 7 months ago there was a huge mailing campaign where there were all these anti-abortion propaganda that was like mailed and shoved into the doors of everyone in my neighborhood. And I found some interesting information about that later. But the whole point is like their whole, like if you opened up the cover, it was fully formed babies that aren't real babies, right? Like they're just these weird fucked up moldings of babies. With like blood, like red food coloring on them and some goop.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you go, this is what you're trying to provoke. You're provoking fear. You're provoking this illusion of inciting pain upon these babies, right? And that's the mentality that these people are approaching it with. And you sit there and they won't acknowledge that the majority of people who choose to have abortions is within that 8-week period. They won't accept it. They're like, no, this is how torturous you people are. You pro-choice people is because you're killing full-formed babies.
No,
and you're
it's
like,
within the first trimester.
no.
That bundle
Going
of
through the
cells,
neonatal ward with a knife, just slitting throats, you know, like
shit people.
like that bundle of cell, like, you know, within the first trimester, which is when the majority of non what like the abortions that are done not because, you know, someone's having a medical issue, but like the people who choose to have abortions, most of those happen within the first trimester. And by that time, it's like not, it's mostly still a clump of cells.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have fully formed really anything. It could not survive on its own. It is a clump of cells. It is a tumor.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. And this is another part that a lot of people who are anti-choice really want to dig into. No one wants to acknowledge how many embryos we use for stem cell research that provide us with some of the most accelerated
IVF.
and and advanced medical procedures that save thousands of people's lives every year. Like,
I remember when that was a huge deal though. Like in like the early aughts when the stem cell thing was like huge and people were like, oh, fuck stem cells, they're killing babies for their stem cells. I remember
harvesting babies for stem cells.
When my little brother was born, I remember my mom being asked if she would wanted to donate his umbilical cord for stem cell research. And that was it.
Yeah.
He was already born.
Yeah.
He was already out. It was fine.
Yeah. But they don't. Here's the thing, though, is what I'm trying to say is the hypocrisy is very real because some of these people who are so adamantly anti-choice may use the development of a medical procedure that came from stem cells and be like, this is the most incredible thing. I'm alive because of this technology. And you're like, yes, you are. And guess what? That was utilizing something that you see as babies. So what kind of baby murderer are you? Because you wanted to stay alive because you had cancer. Like,
well, and just to point like additional hypocrisy, like Sandra's pointing out, having trucks drive through a campus, right?
I've
like,
seen that a few times here.
Well, we have that in Alberta, right?
Yeah, we've
like
seen that in Columbus.
our little anti-choice truck is constantly driving around the city, and like a lot of their little pictures are from miscarriages, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing too, I just want to point this, like people were posting, it was kind of just tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. They were posting pictures of fetuses and they're saying, does this thing have a right to be born or whatever? And the anti-choice people were running and saying, of course it does, of course it does. And people were replying saying, well, good fucking game, this is a fetus of a dolphin. You can't even recognize,
Yeah.
you don't
We
even
don't even
know
know
what
what
the fuck
species
you're
it
looking
is.
at, right? You don't know what the fuck you're looking at. You're talking out your ass with this anti-choice rhetoric, right? You're just spewing rhetoric. And that's the other fun thing is usually when I see anti-choice protests, it's like 95% cis white men,
I'll never forget. I watched that clip of Elizabeth Warren when she left. And she was like traveling with the whole crowd to her car, and there's just this guy in the background being like, "You're cutting up babies!
You're
And
eviscerating babies." Yeah,
and he
yeah,
just
I
like
saw
kept
that
saying
one.
it over and over and over, like so loud that we couldn't hear anyone else. I'm like, like, please,
Yeah.
please,
Yeah.
please. But
I mean, the other thing in relation to bodily autonomy, the other thing that people like to throw around is, what about the rights of the father?
Mm-hmm.
oh, interesting. I
Yes.
haven't really thought about that. Yeah.
No, that's a huge
Yeah.
I've
talking
heard of
point
that,
with
yeah.
people. In that, like, what if the dad wants a kid? Like, what if the dad wants to take care of it? And
Mhm.
He
it's,
can fucking adopt.
that's
Thank you.
his child too. Like,
Go jizz in a bottle and get someone who wants to get pregnant. Like,
Surrogate
like, find
pregnancies are a
another
fucking
partner.
thing. Come
they
on.
happen. Yeah,
Also,
exactly.
I just said it. Adoption. Adoption is a thing. If you want a
Yeah.
fucking kid, go adopt one of the hundreds of thousands of kids that are available for adoption. Like,
Oh, which
Jesus.
is another thing that the pro-life crowd doesn't make any easier. Because abortions are actually prohibitively expensive, or not abortions, adoptions are prohibitively
Mhm.
expensive and very, very difficult.
Yep.
Which, I mean, prohibitively expensive, I don't love, but I do like that there's an extensive screening process whenever people want to get kids. I think
Yes,
that's.
please.
I
Yeah.
wish there was a better screening process for when people got pregnant. Like,
The foster system also needs a whole revamp.
yeah,
Yeah.
like they don't. What was
Well,
the other
and,
thing I was gonna say?
I mean,
So
it's another argument, but like the foster system is also an avenue for keeping BIPOC folks in a certain economic demographic and stuff like that. But that's like for Canada, Indigenous folks make up a huge percentage of our kids in care kind of thing, right? And that's intentional. That's intentional. Separating children from their cultural and familial roots and stuff like that is an intentional thing that our country does on a regular basis. But that's another rant. But I did want to point that out. So fuck Canada.
What else was I gonna say? I was talking about the rights of the dad.
Oh, yeah.
Just that it's a thing. Yeah.
Just as a thing, as if that's a thing. Well,
Let's dive into that though a little bit.
Because it's not. Because, like, whoever the sperm donor was in this situation, does not have to undergo the same risks that the pregnant person would have to go through at all. Like, there's so many things that could go wrong, from as little as like because people also, this is like a whole thing with women that I can't stand, and like in like feminine culture, is like people don't talk about how hard pregnancy is. They make it seem like it's this magical time and you're just glowing and just you're never
No.
gonna feel more like a woman than when you're pregnant, and you're just gonna imagine this life for your child. And I don't know why I have this voice.
You just saying it like that makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Welcome
The
to
thing
the
they-
cult.
The thing they don't talk about is that you could just develop type 2 diabetes when you're pregnant. Your teeth can fall out when you're pregnant if you're not consuming enough calcium, and the baby will decide to take the calcium directly from your bones and teeth. You can come up with different sort of blood diseases. There's lots of ways my mom had a particularly difficult pregnancy with my little brother because he had his 2-stem umbilical cord instead of a 3-stem umbilical cord, and because his body was not processing waste in the way that it should, or it wasn't funneling out waste in the way that it should. My mom's body ended up processing way more waste in a way that was inefficient for her body, so her kidneys started to fail. So she spent the
Hmm.
last 3 weeks of her pregnancy in the hospital because her
Mhm.
kidneys were failing because she was pregnant. And it is things like that in every single aspect of a pregnant person's body that can become affected because they are pregnant.
Yeah.
Yes.
And these are all normal circumstances. These are all things that are very, very, very common
Mhm.
that people just don't talk
Mhm.
about.
Yeah.
You shit yourself sometimes
Oh
when
yeah.
you give birth. Sometimes you can tear the skin in between your anus and your vaginal canal, and they have
Mhm.
to sew it up afterwards.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you're talking about like the actual birth process. There's like other things that happen during pregnancy too.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
we're just goob. Like you want to say meat soup? We're like a goop soup. Like it's just there's
I
a
still
lot.
think meat suit applies. Yeah.
I don't know.
Not to
Well.
mention the things socially surrounding pregnancy and how
Mhm.
people view you after you've had a child, how
Mm,
you're supposed
mhm,
to feel as a person raising a child, like what decisions about your body come under fire if
mhm,
you're eating the wrong things, if you're too skinny, if you're too fat during your pregnancy, like if you get
Mhm.
stretch marks, if you don't bounce back immediately. All of these are in
Yeah.
relation to pregnancy, and they're all valid reasons as to why someone would not want to have a thing.
mhm,
Well, like I after like learning a lot of this, like it's you talk about like how people respond to people that become pregnant. Like I stopped saying congratulations right off the bat, right? Because like I don't know that they're happy about that. I know they're gonna,
I always give like a pregnant pause. I'm always like, "Oh,"
yeah, like I
and
don't
I
know they're
wait for
happy
them to
about that.
respond.
Yeah, well, and they're probably gonna lie to me because society has conditioned them to lie to me if they're not happy, right? They're gonna lie to me. They're gonna say, "I was so happy," right?
mhm,
Like, are you though? Like I could take them aside and say, you can tell me if you're not happy. It's okay, right? Like not everybody is thrilled about becoming pregnant. Not everybody is looking forward to the process. Some people are fucking terrified, right?
mhm,
And our society makes no space for that. And
mhm,
again, that not just like yeah, that maybe they are consenting to going through with the pregnancy, but in terms of the bodily autonomy of it all, they're terrified, right?
mhm.
And there's no space for people to be scared, uncomfortable, upset, frustrated, angry with
Yeah,
being pregnant or being a fucking parent, you know?
because
You're
you
not
can,
supposed to have any negative thoughts whatsoever, ever.
because
Well,
you can love being a parent, but you can hate being pregnant.
Yeah.
well, and there is a societal expectation though as well is that women do or those who carry who are the carriers actually um prevent themselves from talking about it until the first trimester is done.
Mhm.
There's this huge stigma of I don't even announce that I'm pregnant until I'm past this like barrier of success, right?
Well, I agree with
Like,
that though.
hmm?
I I
Why?
I agree with that as a because that's like a self-care thing because miscarriages are so common for
Mhm.
nobody's fault that like if you start
Mhm.
telling people and you start sharing that joy and you're very excited about being pregnant and then all of a sudden a miscarriage happens, you have to go through and you have to tell each one of those people individually that the pregnancy did not come to term, and you have to mourn with other people and deal with other people mourning,
Mm.
like, and deal with them processing their
Mhm.
feelings with you. Like,
But wouldn't it also be an option for people to like want to have support during that time though? Do you know
I
what I
yeah, and
mean?
people totally do that. People still do that, but I
Yeah.
definitely agree with the people who decide to wait until the pregnancy is more viable.
Mhm.
Because like me personally, if I were to be really really excited with someone about something and like, and tell everybody about it and then it all just goes to shit and then I have to deal with something that's happened with my body, with
Mhm.
my identity, and I have to grieve publicly. Grieving publicly sounds like torture.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just interesting because I read a comment about someone who was just like, I really wish I could have just told people that I was pregnant and I didn't have to go through the trimester, which was really hard for her
Hmm.
by herself
Yeah.
because she
Yeah.
felt like she couldn't talk to anyone about it, right? And she didn't feel like she had the capacity to be like, hey, I'm really nauseous all the time, but without telling you that I'm pregnant, how do I deal with this, right?
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think,
that's all
but
where I was coming from with
but
that.
also
So
that's again, that's autonomy. They should just be able to
yeah,
make that
the
choice.
choice of it. I think that's what I was trying to get at is that there was a
Yeah.
stigma of people telling you should have to wait
Yeah.
unless instead of being like, no, I need to
Yeah.
choose whether or not I tell people about this stuff.
Yeah, I do think that's sort of a symptom of the larger issue that we're talking about, right?
Mhm.
Where it's like it should only be sunshine and rainbows coming out your ass when you're
Mm.
pregnant, right? Like from conception through to when that human actually starts to exist, right? Um, there should be no negative thoughts.
Mhm.
That's just how society tends to look at it, right?
Mhm.
I'm speaking very generally here. I think there's different perspectives that exist out there. Um, and I think we can maybe drill down to those in a different chat. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I've experienced much more of the shooting around this than I have the critical thought.
Mm.
And that again is just me as a third or fourth party person who can't become pregnant. So again, my opinion is limited in this perspective, but just observing how it's treated and how people, again, I don't know how much people are hiding the reality of their situation, but um, I just wish there was more space for people to be more honest without judgment
Yeah.
around the whole process,
Mhm.
because that's what autonomy is about.
I agree.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh, we gotta go back to our focus here. I feel like, unless we
Oh.
want to shift directly into the children now. Do we feel like we've
Well,
talked
we
about?
might be there. I mean,
We might be
unless the
there.
I
people
mean,
level
we're
there,
kind of. I mean, we can also continue this on
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
um,
it's related, right?
it
yeah,
is.
because all right.
I'm
Well,
just saying I wanted to give people an opportunity to write some stuff if they have questions specifically
oh yeah,
about
if you want to,
like
anybody else has any commentary about bodily autonomy? I know we're really leaning on the abortion issue, but we can also kind of flick out in other topics too.
Well,
But
Alexandra,
I think the main takeaway is that like it's such a huge and heavy thing that
mhm,
happens to a singular person's body. That singular person should be able to choose whether or not that happens.
correct.
yeah, yeah,
It's
it
not
is
up
all
to the
about choice.
dad.
Yeah,
It's not up to our government.
yeah, and it's not up to whether or not you agree with abortion, right? Because you can not agree with the concept of an abortion and still be pro-choice,
Of
right?
course.
Because
Yeah.
that person out there who chooses to get an abortion is not impacting your life in any way whatsoever. 0% are they impacting your life, right? They're choosing something for their own existence, their own life story, their own lived experience. It is not impacting you. It will never impact you. It is never going to impact your life in any way whatsoever,
Mhm.
right? You can get pregnant as many times as you want, or get other people pregnant as many times as you want, and have as many babies as you want, um, and still choose to be pro-choice.
Mhm.
Um,
To be honest, that's in my circle, in my network, I have quite a conservative component of my family and
mhm,
people that I know. That is how the majority of women who I've talked to about this sit. They say, "I personally would never get an abortion,
mhm.
but I don't make that choice for other people."
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's honestly such a healthy thing to identify for yourself, like going through the process of like, okay, well, if I was pregnant, this is under the constrictions of them thinking like this was their choice and they were choosing to get pregnant and to have kids and all these things because most of these women are in those situations to make those choices. Um, but for them, the process is I wouldn't, but I'm not going to tell other people that they can't.
Mhm.
Right. And that's the bare minimum that we have to kind of have a mindset for.
Yeah.
Because if someone, here's the thing, we can also not cancel out that if someone doesn't want to have an abortion, that's their choice,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
right? Like,
Sort of
okay,
the whole point.
yes, that's
Yeah.
kind of the whole point.
Yeah, we're not forcing people like, and that's the other thing too. It is like it's that sort of rhetoric of like, well, you don't want anybody to have babies. It's like, I don't give a fuck if you have a baby. I
Oh
could
no,
not give a fuck.
some people love having babies
Because it impacts my life 0% if other people choose to have a baby.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
I am not impacted by it.
Yeah.
No.
Go
But-
for it.
Yeah, so like I would say that's probably where, to be honest, where I see a lot of my conversations ending up. And
Mhm.
it's to me, it's actually quite nice to see that, because in a lot of conservative conversations, especially with conservative men, this is not a discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should not kill babies. And that's the wordings that they use, right? I'm like, it's a fetus, first off.
Not a baby.
Not a baby. So it's so it's kind of one of those things where the discussions can be had. It's just one of those lines where you start saying, my choices cannot dictate the choices of others.
Yeah.
And that's where the general consensus needs to get to.
I think the only thing I'll kind of throw in there as an additional thought, I guess, for consideration is, and again, my faith in these systems is tenuous at best, but in terms of who we vote for does impact these choices. So you can be somebody who sits there and says, I would never get an abortion, but I respect people's right to choose, but I'm going to elect Jason Kenney, who is a well-known anti-abortion activist as our premier, right? And for Alberta, we have 2 abortion clinics in Alberta, right? So if you live in rural Alberta, you got to drive 5 hours to get an abortion.
Do we actually only have 2? I feel like we definitely have more than that.
I think it's only 2, as far as I know. There's one in Kensington and there's one in Edmonton. So the reality is, having the legislation is one thing. Access is an entirely another thing. So apparently in Canada, the right to an abortion is protected, but access is not. So there's like people like conservative politicians in Alberta can make it really fucking hard for a person to get an abortion, even though it's technically legal, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing, and that's a lot of what Canadian activists are trying to advocate for up here, is that like, hey, just because it's legal here in Canada doesn't mean the fight's over.
Correct.
And I do want to thank Goki talking about bringing up Indigenous persons who have forced sterilization, because that's another way in which Canada has done this. United States has done this. It's happened globally. Again, it's another way in which, states have policed who can have children and who can't. And again, when we talk about forced sterilization, obviously that is a total violation of bodily autonomy, right? Because we're not just talking about sterilization of certain individuals, we're talking about sterilization of entire populaces, entire specific targeted cultures being sterilized, right? Again, our government clearly stated early on that they wanted to deliberately eliminate specific Indigenous cultures. Like that was the goal from the outset. From residential schools, there was forced sterilization that happened here as well. So that's very much a thing. I don't know that I can speak much more to that right now, because I think my knowledge is very limited on that. But I think it's definitely something we can look into more and bring up, that kind of thing. So
again, another component
could be another episode. Maybe we seek out a guest for that one. Like I think that would be, maybe we look into that. I don't know. Just thought.
Yeah. Steph has an interesting little thing here. So PEI is Prince Edward Island. It's like Princess Island Park, and I'm like, no, that's in Calgary. Sorry, I don't know why my brain did that. Which is a province on the east coast of Canada. Very small. It's very tiny. So they didn't have access until 2019. Double check, but it's 2017 or 2019. Yeah, because damn.
Yeah. Which again is to my point. Legality is one thing, but access is another.
Yeah.
And I think earlier in chat there was somebody talking about like there's protected zones around the abortion clinics in Alberta.
Which, to be honest, isn't actually that far. Like you can still walk
it's a
to the
couple
clinic
of
and see them.
blocks.
Yeah.
And the reality is they're able to roam the city with their fucking trucks, horrendous little trucks. And the reality, like they're on campus all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not here. Like I used to live very close to a women's clinic that did abortions, and it was every day that I drove by, it was like they were in the parking lot essentially. With their terrible signs and screaming, and it was always like the same 5 people.
Go do something productive.
I do have like a quasi funny story. In that, so I like regularly go to Planned Parenthood. That's where I get all of my birth control. It's cheap, it's easy, and I like supporting a place that really helps people. So I go to Planned Parenthood every 3 months. And occasionally, very occasionally, at my Planned Parenthood, which my Planned Parenthood does not perform abortions. It's like if you Google it, it will tell you whether or not that particular clinic performs abortion services. And they don't. And so very, very rarely will I see a protester out there. But this is like pre-pandemic. One of the times there was a protester out there, and it was just this dude. It was this old dude, and he had a sign, and he was talking about killing babies, and he was screaming at me as I was walking in, and I was feeling extra like confronting that day. And I walked up to him, and I just looked at him, and I was like, "You know, this one doesn't perform abortions." And he kind of looked at me. He's like, "Yeah, but it's like what they stand for." And I was like, "They do not perform abortions at this clinic, which means that anybody walking in is not going to be having an abortion. So you are not saving any babies. You're talking to no one, dude."
Yeah.
And I walked in, and and I came back out like an hour later, and he was gone.
Yeah.
What's a PPP office, Sandra?
This is American. It's an
American
thing.
I don't know what PPP is. Planned Parenthood?
Planned Parenthood.
Personal penguin people?
Why did your voice go so deep?
It's because when I vape.
Because of the vape. Planned Parenthood.
Oh, it is Planned Parenthood. Okay.
Because when I talk through my vape, my voice is going through the vape.
Yeah, it's water vapor coming out of your lungs. It's not actual air.
Yeah.
Very scientific, Eric.
I know. Where's the helium? I just need to counteract it.
What's the other one? It's like a hydrofluoride or whatever. It's the one that makes your voice very
goes
deep.
like way deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Science rules.
Science.
Science.
Speaking of science, one day when a mommy and a daddy love each other, stork will come to their front door with a baby in a thing, and that becomes their child.
Yeah, and curse them with a child. You've sinned. Here's a child.
We talking about kids. I have never really had a strong predetermined situation where I'm like, I want children. This is not a situation where I would not birth a child. That is first off. I have no inkling to do that or want to do that.
But it's a part of life, Kara.
Oh no, it's an expectation. We need more like mothers like you, Kara. No
No.
guff, just, blah blah blah. Anyway, I've heard that before. I've heard that lots.
No, you need
Um
mothers that want to be mothers.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um it is, however, a situation where I still sit in it where if I had a girlfriend or a wife who was very interested in having children, I don't know if I would be an immediate no.
Mhm.
But I'm also getting to the point where I'm like, I'm going to be too old to deal with this shit.
Too old for this shit.
Well,
Too old for this
could
shit.
you could also be in the situation where like someone you're dating is a single mom
Yeah.
and like
Mhm.
they
Already
have
have kids.
Yep,
they
there's
don't
already a
have
kid in the
kids.
picture. Yep. Yep.
So I'm not like full out no children ever in my existence of living. But it's definitely not something I will proceed with myself.
Mhm.
Yeah, like seek out.
Yeah, I would not seek it out.
Yeah.
It's I know that I throw around like a lot of guff about kids. I don't think they're like children are evil. I just
I
I
think
need
they're
to
evil.
be able to make myself live and exist. I cannot be responsible for another human. It's just
Yeah.
not gonna happen. But yeah, no, there's like definitely things about children that I think are pretty cool, and then there's things about children that I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
no
Fair enough.
thanks.
I think I'm in a similar place for the most part. For me, I grate, and this is part of like the quirky loan thing. I kind of grate against the like inevitability concept, right? Like you will either have children or you will want to have them, right?
Mm, yeah.
And that's inevitable. And again, speaking as a person who won't be carrying a child to term, like I'm still hit with that. I'm still hit with that expectation. My mom has hinted strongly at that
Oh yes,
concept.
parents.
Yeah.
Where's the grandbabies?
I want grandkids, Joe. It's like, if she's watching, sorry, mom. Probably not. But
Do you
but
send your
again,
mom the link to this podcast?
No.
'Cause we talked about some
Hey, we're
weird
not gonna
shit.
judge.
No,
Maybe she
no.
just wants to watch.
I don't know. Maybe
I
just
think
had a
she
cool
follows
mom.
me on Instagram, but I don't think she's logged in
Never know.
months, or years. I don't know.
My
Anyways,
parents don't watch these.
my
It's fine.
my point is, like for me as a concept, yeah, I'm not opposed to it theoretically. But for me, like the idea is like I want to do it with somebody, right? Or I want to do it because I'm moved to do so, not
Mm.
because it's an expectation, right? Um, like I work with kids in my current job, I worked with kids in my old job, and I think kids are undervalued or underrated in our world. Like there's unique perspectives, there's autonomy that's ignored for them a lot, um, and I think there's something really cool about the fact that we have the capacity to create new human beings. But for
Yeah.
me, the concept is not lost on me that when you choose to become a parent, you are creating a human being. You're not having a baby, you're creating a human being, right?
You're shaping a life.
Yeah. The baby is a temporary condition, right? They become an infant, they become a, toddler, they become a young child, they become a kid, they become a young adult, and they become an adult. And you're still responsible for them throughout that entire process. So the rhetoric that's thrown around, it's like, oh, don't you want kids? Don't you want to have a baby? It's like, no, I want to choose to commit to raising a human being, right? And to me, a lot of that involves another person. I want to do that with somebody else, and not necessarily that the person or people I am connected with, that's a condition for. But to me, it's like that needs to be present first before I'll even consider that eventuality, right? Where it's like that's a natural extension of the way our relationship is growing.
Right.
Where it's like, hey, we're really solid together. Maybe let's try and raise a human being.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want a baby. I want to raise a human being.
Whenever people tell me they want a puppy or a kitten, I always look at them and I say, "Okay, do you want a cat? Do you want a dog?"
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a
Because
good way
that's
of
what
putting
that
it.
turns into.
Do you want an elderly dog that you have to take to the vet all the time and have lots of medical bills for, right? That's what you're signing up for, right?
Yeah. People are so focused on like also, and just quick side tangent, puppies are demons.
They are.
They're
So are kittens. So are kittens.
Awful. So are kittens.
Yep.
They will shred you until you are fucking Swiss cheese. They will poop all over everything. They will eat everything you love. They will make you rush to the hospital in a panic because they have eaten something that they should not have eaten. Puppies are a menace. People don't talk about it enough.
True for human babies as well.
True for human.
People don't talk about it enough.
There is a reason why when you are freshly born, you don't know shit. Okay? That's why we need parents.
Yeah, we're not giraffes. We can't just like start running.
I know.
30 seconds after being born.
Hey, but even giraffe babies need to be taught shit. Like, come on.
Yeah, of course. There is a reason why our evolution system is based on like continued teaching.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Yes, we have like the functions of we know how to breathe, and we know how to poop, and all that stuff. But you know what I mean.
Anyway. I watch parents every weekend teach their babies how to breathe in pools, right?
Yeah.
Like we literally have to dunk the babies to get them to learn to hold their breath, right? And it's not pleasant for them.
Which is funny because like babies when they're in the womb like breathe fluid anyways. So
I know.
Like
I know.
They're like you're like sort of trying to teach them a thing that they like don't like. It's very weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will probably never have children. I say probably because like I think the only situation in which I could see myself like becoming a parent is if like a child just sort of dropped into my life. Like if, you know, if I had a partner I was really invested in and they had a kid already, or if say one of my friends had kids and died in a car accident and left me their child. Like I would not depending on my financial situation, like I would not reject the child outright based on those circumstances.
Get out, kid. Get out.
Like, you know, like I mean if I like genuinely like, and I mean it's not. So for my background, I was 13 years old when my little brother was born, and my parents were going through a very messy divorce, and my mother was going through some like drug abuse and alcohol abuse issues, and it was like a pretty intense time when he was born. So there was a lot of parenting that I had to do to a very, very young baby because I was like sort of the only responsible adult in the house that wasn't working all the time. So I had like a very small, like I'm not gonna say that like I had a mom experience or whatever, but I had a very small quasi-parental experience at a time when I was very young. So I sort of feel like I already did my job.
Right.
Like I mean,
paid your dues socially.
Yeah, like I did my civic duty. Like he's pretty well adjusted. He's not dead.
The ultimate goal.
Yeah.
I didn't drop him on his head or anything. Like I taught him how to read. Like I feel like I did a pretty good job. And like, you know, I love that little dude. But so like any sort of maternal instinct that I may have, like it's sort of jaded me to having an experience like that again. Because that wasn't a thing that like I felt like I had a choice in. It was like I need to help this thing or it's gonna die. Like it wasn't like I at 13 chose to take care of a child. That was a situation that was thrust upon me. So I don't know that I would invite that situation again. And if I do have maternal feelings, I'm happy to expend all of my maternal feelings on the kids that are existing in my life and pets. Yeah. Because I understand they're not the same thing. Lots of people talk about their dog like it's their baby. Your dog is not your baby. 100%.
They are not.
Your dog is not your baby. Your kitten is not your baby. It can be like your fur baby. That's fine. It is not the same amount
interchangeable.
They're just not interchangeable things. And I think people sometimes just drink a little too much of the pet love Kool-Aid. And as a person who works with animals and and trains animals and has been an animal breeder. Even I have not drunk the Kool-Aid that much. I mean, I will go when Moose dies. I will take bereavement time, 100%.
Hell yeah, you should.
But
Yeah.
he's not my child. I don't like it when people call me like mommy or daddy to Moose. Like it's not. He doesn't have that concept. He knows that I am not related to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously I don't have pets. So, but like I look at Malaya and I'm just like, I will miss you when you pass. We will have a royal procession for you. But you are a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like a weird grumpy roommate that you have occasionally.
A severely grumpy roommate. As a person who's had that roommate, that is a very grumpy roommate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna go?
Oh, Xandra's comment.
Oh, yeah. I just want to tag one before we get to Xandra, just because we're scrolling. It's good. I'm glad people are talking. I have heard this so many times in my life. More so in the last 5 years than ever.
No one, I'll die. God damn it.
Yeah. It's so interesting about, you say, Hellebarn, you say it's from the book of cliches, but it is so profusely embedded in people's perspectives of what about me when I'm old, though? And I'm like, the robot's going to take care of me, obviously.
No.
The robot is going to clean my
the insect overlords. Yeah.
I endeavor to live a life where not the only creature that cares about me on this planet is the thing that I spawned from my body.
That's also fair.
Like,
yeah. No, but it's so interesting, right? People come up with these scenarios. They're just like, but, and you're just like, I need you to recognize that there is a percentage of people on this planet who are going to be very much okay without spawning. It's fine.
And that's the other thing too. There are people in this world who cannot have children.
Correct.
And to like put all of this like weight on whether or not like a person who can get pregnant does get pregnant and has a baby, like it, like for some people they really want that and they would love for that to happen for them, but that's just not a thing that can happen for them. And for whatever reason, maybe they also can't adopt, because I don't know, in some states you're a fucking same-sex couple. Just reasons.
Yep.
And all of that rhetoric is extremely harmful for those people too.
Totally. And there are more people out there who are unable to conceive than you would imagine, right?
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating. The pressures of not only just being parents, but like producing your own blood children is kind of weird. Like
kind of narcissistic.
And
a little bit.
And archaic, right? It's old.
But here's the thing, and I get it. I don't want to put us in a bracket. Like, if you really want to be a parent and you want your own kids, have at it. Like, heyo, try to raise them to be good people who are going to be, intelligent and like try to make society better.
Yeah,
like
just raise kind people, please.
People, right? And I don't want anyone to ever say that it's just like we're on this huge kick right now or this trend where people aren't having kids. I'm like, no. There are plenty of humans on this planet who will like have children. We are okay. And they're like, but capitalism, there's less people to sell shit to. And you're like,
well, no, and capitalism's the problem. And I mean, in the US and Canada, that might not be an issue, but in countries like in other like Asiatic countries, like South Korea, like population rates are down to like a sort of a dangerously low amount because the restraints of capitalism, the hustle culture, the work culture in South Korea is so like just overbearing that people don't have time or the financial means to have kids, even if they want them.
Yeah. Which is also, that's a whole other conversation as well. Sorry. Okay, we're going to get through some of these comments. Or unless someone had a comment on what
I really want to, just vibing with what Xandra and Koki are saying here, just like, I'm just gonna die. Thank you very much. I'm not really gonna worry too much about someone taking care of me when I'm old.
Yeah.
That's my plan.
Yep.
I'm out at 80, folks. Thank you very much. That's
Right.
my plan.
Where is it? There was one from Stuff here, but we scooted by, and I'm like, oh, we should talk about that. Ah, here we go. Here's another thing that a lot of people come across is after you're 35, you are considered barren. And yet again,
Well,
another.
no,
Huh?
that's not true. Over 35, you were considered geriatric.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm like oversimplifying the situation that
Yeah, because I don't think barren is a medical term anymore, but a geriatric pregnancy is 100% a thing. Any pregnancy over 35 is considered
yeah.
geriatric.
I think what the social perception is
Yeah.
that once you're 35, you are no longer viable.
Yeah.
Or you shouldn't be having kids. You're too old.
What's
too
the
old to
ranking
have
system?
children.
There's like there's a whole like 17th century ranking system for women who don't. Oh, I'm blanking on the terms right now.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what this
Women
is.
who do not marry.
Oh, that's different. Yeah. You're talking about like spinster, thornback, something else.
Yeah.
FYI, my motorcycle group that I start will be called the Thornbacks, so deal with that.
Yes, baby.
Yeah. But yeah, no, there is a societal expression because it's I also hear how there's a lot of pressure that women place on women as well. It's just like, well, make sure you have your children young. Right? Make sure you do that because that's a more realistic way to do it. And I'm like, well, yeah, I can see some understanding of like energy availability and having all these other things, but I'm like, some women or some people just want to have kids when they're older because they're more financially stable, they have things in order, maybe their networks are more solidified at that time, maybe they
Maybe they
didn't have
just
a
didn't
partner.
meet the person they wanted to have a baby with until it was later on in life.
Totally.
Well, again, as someone who was like from the camp of people who like I want to have a partner established before all this, like I'm way more on board with the idea of adopting or raising a kid that's already there than I am this whole concept of like my own. And this is again, I think there was a comment from Sandra earlier. Like I'm philosophy minded person. Rhetoric is very important to me, and so when people say I want to have a baby, I take that for what they mean. They want to have a baby, right? So when I talk about like when I hear people say I want to have my own child, it rubs me the wrong way. I don't know. This is just me. I'm not reading more into it than it is, but it's just like my own child.
It's a
like
bodily autonomy thing because the children are not their own
they're not
people.
yeah.
They're not their own humans. They are an extension of you.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, no, I'm bringing. Sure, yeah, I might have like if I contributed genetic material to this being, yeah, I've contributed genetic material, but that's it. That's all I've done, right? They're still their own person, and I'm going to try and guide them appropriately, right? That doesn't change. That doesn't change as far as like the genetic material makeup is concerned, right? If I'm not genetically related to the being that I'm guiding, it's irrelevant. My genetic relation is irrelevant, right? If I've chosen to invest in this being, I've chosen to invest in this being. What the fuck difference does it make whether they're biologically related to me or not? You know?
Well, it's obsessive though, right? Because it's all this whole lineage thing, this
fuck that.
what is it what are you going to make your, dynasty in the future of whatever it may be? And that's
this isn't the 1600s, people.
Well, but it's associated with also delivering property and values and worth.
No, I know.
Right?
I know.
Like
I'm being tongue in cheek and
right, yeah.
Right.
But
deliberately, right? But
it's so interesting though that you say that because like some of the most heart-wrenching good feeling videos that I've seen are like when kids walk up to like their step parent and their adoption papers.
Oh yeah,
and they're like, I want you to adopt me. I'm like, it's immediately holy shit, right?
Yeah.
Because what an incredible experience that would be.
Like So I'm a child of divorce, and my bio dad, he was not in a place where he could be like a full-time dad for me. So I saw him about once a week. So my full-time dad was my stepdad, and like, and I won't out their names, but like when I was little, instead of saying like, "Hey, this is my dad and this is my stepdad," I would say, "This is my dad plus his name, and then this is my other dad plus his name."
Right.
Like that was that because he was my dad because he was the
Right.
guy who fathered me on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a lot like him.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing where I think it's so incredible that, our language allows people to create those labels for people, right? You know, imagine if we existed in a world where only bio parents were allowed to be the parent declaration. Like if there was no adoption component to it at all,
Mhm.
right? Like that'd be pretty fucked up and weird. Pretty extreme. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but it doesn't
It
exist.
also like denies the reality of the situation because the
Yeah,
reality of the situation is like if you are parenting that child, you are that child's parent.
correct.
Like to dismiss it because of biology is just it just escapes the social reality of the situation. It's the same way that people
Yeah.
talk about trans people.
Mm,
Yeah.
It's like if socially, regardless of what your biology is, if socially you are like going out in the world like being treated as a gender, then then what does it matter what your biology is?
And I think that's my issue with the whole parenting thing, right? It's not necessarily exclusively a biological thing, right? It's it's a choice you make. It's a choice an individual makes, or it should be. It should always be, right? When you
Yes.
think about bodily autonomy, right? People should choose or should be able to choose becoming a parent. And whether that is biologically related or not shouldn't make a difference
mhm,
because the responsibility, I think, is the same because you're entering into a role that I think lasts for your lifetime, where you are agreeing to take ownership over the guidance of another human being, and that guidance reduces as that person gets older and older and older and gains more life experience, right? But
Or it
that's
just
what parenthood,
recontextualizes.
yeah, or recontextualizes, right? But it evolves, right? And I think that's a lot of my issue. I think this is just maybe related to the non-binary aspect. And thanks, Taz, for bringing up that sort of gender identity aspect about it,
What,
where
me
it's like,
bring up trans stuff? Never.
what? Um, but I think that's my point, and that's my issue with it is that this boxing in that it's only these bio cisgender people that can do it, right?
Yeah.
It's only
I
these monogamous one woman, one man people that can raise children, right? It's not the stepdad, it's not the step parent, it's not the stepmom, it's not the polyamorous partner, right? It's only this one to one raising 2.5 kids. It's again the society way of boxing in this is what a family is, and anything else is wrong, right? That's more or less what I have an issue with.
I will say, and yeah, like I 100% agree with that. I will say that um I won't say I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I won't say biology doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
because there are some instances in which it very much does. Like even in like adoptions and stuff, they still collect the biological parents' medical records in order to like if say that child ends up growing up to have some sort of genetically passed on
Mm-hmm.
disease or something like that, something health related. Like it is important to know that biology, and also there are like biological functions of a pregnant person, like things that happen like when you biologically have a child
Mm-hmm.
and like you are connected, like your baby's going to smell different than other people's babies. Like, and it's not like a psychic connection sort of thing. It's like it's the evolutionary thing of like I am bonding to this child because it is my biology, and that's not it is a thing that happens, but it's not a thing that's like all the time.
Yeah,
because people can bond to a baby in that way, and like those chemicals still happen, and like
that's fair.
But
I guess
there are some certain situations in which biology does matter. I won't say like outright biology doesn't matter.
I guess I'm opposed to the hierarchy of it all.
Yes.
Right. That bio is the pinnacle, the pedestal that everybody should aspire to be, and everything else is less than. That's
certainly
more.
It's certainly an easy way to have a baby.
Sure. Yep. It's a function, right? Of biology.
Yeah.
Not purpose, though. Purpose is not. Function is not purpose.
I'm saying adoption is difficult.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I lost it.
Like if you if you are a person that could get pregnant, it's like and you have the physical capability to get pregnant, then it's easy to get pregnant.
Right. Okay. Sorry, we're reading here, Xandra. I feel like I got. Hold on.
I think we got confused where it feels like you're saying people are trapped in a box, but it feels like to me it's shuffling people into a different box.
Well, I think Des helped me clarify that. Like, I think I'm opposed to like the social expectation that exists around biological reproduction, and that only from a social perspective, certain couplings and certain parenting dynamics are sanctioned, and everything else is a deviation from what's supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
So that if you choose to not sort of biologically reproduce, and you choose to say adopt or foster parent your whole life, or marry somebody who already has a kid in the picture, that's somehow seen as less than from a social perspective. You're a step parent, and step parent is seen as less than a bio parent. Again, not everybody looks at it that way, but from what I've seen, that's seen as less than, right?
I read a lot of internet stories. Specifically, I am a frequent peruser of "Am I the Asshole" on Reddit. I fucking love that subreddit. I think it's great.
Don't tell me about that. I'll probably spend way too many hours reading those.
It's
Kara,
you 100% will spend way too many hours reading.
It's an internet vortex. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's a great vortex. So a thing I see a lot in that specific subreddit, and I will say that and like this is not a thing that has not been unheard of in my real world, but a lot of my friends don't have kids, so this is sort of a thing that I've seen on the internet a lot. Is like people in this specific scenario, it's usually like a younger person who is like the child in the scenario, that's coming in, and they have some sort of story, and they talk about like parental favoritism and how like maybe they were like their biological parent had them, and then a divorce happened, and then they married someone else, and they had a kid with another person, and the new person, the step parent, treats their biological child differently and better than their stepchild.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's sort of a hierarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do agree, Am I the Asshole is like 60% weird internet stories that are probably all made up. But it's not a thing that I haven't seen in the real world. This specific scenario that I am talking about.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have. Yeah, it's so interesting because you start asking. It's just like, are these societal things that people develop over time? Are we at a stage in our, evolution where we can start deconstructing this and giving more like critical thought to the presence of how we create our families and
Mhm.
all these other things? Because there are still lots of humans on this planet who would very much like to keep it just blood is everything,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? And they love the way that works, and it works for them. Um,
I think that's
so
like
be
the
it.
majority of cultures. Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
again, you look at like Asiatic cultures and stuff like that. It's they're pretty blood driven. Like,
yeah,
it's
and
biology is sort of the thing that matters more than any other thing.
Mhm.
correct. And when I look at that, I don't see like a major flaw in it, right? Like there's lots of people who just feel connected to their biological spawn, which is probably a good thing. Otherwise, we
Spawn's a good
probably
word.
wouldn't have survived very long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to think that we can start having these conversations and actually start analyzing like the dynamics of what families and networks look like.
Yeah.
Even how um more of the Eurocentric Christian structure of a family, like we talk about, 2.5 kids, mom, dad, blah, 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 blah. You know, for a very long time, humans existed in tribes. Like we existed because we worked as a network
Mhm.
to survive. So there
Mhm.
wasn't only just like, yeah, this is your biological baby, and maybe the mom has like an attachment to that, but the whole little village was really supporting those kids.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have really survived all that long if we're just like, nope, it's only that 2.5 and you live on the acreage on the west side of town. Good luck.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
and
not
like, and there are lots of cultures in which that's still a thing. Like, it's
Mhm.
like family units. It's like it's very common for you to live with 3 generations of your family
Mhm.
absolutely. Yep.
because it takes a family to raise children
Indeed.
Yeah.
according to that culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for us, it's very strange for like in my thinking of like where I live in Calgary, in the network of people, it is a I don't want to say it's frowned upon, but people are just like, "Oh, you still live with your parents?" And it's
Yeah.
like a question like that. And it's
Mhm.
it's a judgment. It's obviously a judgment, but I think it's really important for us to recognize like that's not unusual. If you are having the capacity to live with your parents and get along well enough to have that existence happen, that's actually a really great thing.
Yeah.
Um, that's some good teamwork there.
Especially
I
in
mean,
this economic climate.
Well,
yeah.
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 A big, like, I won't say judgment, I'll say sort of a stereotype, which is a
Mm.
true stereotype of like uh I don't know, Eurocentric cultures, is that we're all very lonely
Mhm.
because of like the way that family units are formed and then broken apart and formed and broken apart and formed and broken apart. Like, it's like it for other cultures that exist in those family units, like they look at us and they're like, those people are lonely, and
Yeah.
and and it shows.
Yeah. But it's the obsession of independency, right?
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
we're seen as, and it's also like, I don't know, this is such a tangent. I'm so sorry I'm bringing this up, but my brain is
How
going.
dare you, Kara? How dare
Um, like it's the whole line of what do we see successful in our society,
you?
right?
Mhm.
And that's to have your own house, to have your own family, to have all these things, have a good job, right? And it's all very individualized. It's very siloed.
Mhm.
And that's what's presented as successful.
Yeah.
My interpretation.
Well,
Um,
I've come across some rhetoric recently that really resonated, and I get it's similar, I guess, but it's a little different in that permanence is the marker for success. So,
mm,
like, if you start a business and you run a bakery for your entire life, that's successful. But if you start a bakery, run it for 10 years, and then close it down because it's not successful and you move on to something else, that's a
mm,
failed business, right?
right.
That's sort of the rhetoric that I was looking at. So same with like marriages, right? So if you marry someone, you live with them for 60 years, you die together, holding hands in the dying ward or whatever. Um, that's a
The
successful marriage,
dying ward.
right? That's a successful marriage. But if you get married, you live together for 15 years, decide things aren't working anymore, get a divorce, move on. That's a failed marriage, right?
Mhm.
Permanence is the only thing capitalism in our society currently sees as successful.
Mm.
Anything other than permanence is failure. So again, friendships. If you have friends that last for 5 years and then you go your separate ways, you don't talk again, well, that wasn't a good friendship, So I don't know. It was really interesting to have that thought process because I hadn't considered that thought process challenge where it's like permanence is something I looked at, right, as being I was really concerned with, um, and change is inevitable, right? And change is the enemy of permanence, and you can't be permanent, right? It's not actually possible because on a fundamental level we will die, right? So on some level it's not permanent. Nothing about our existence is, and so this pursuit of it is pointless.
Correct.
And distracting.
Lots of things are pushed to push that illusion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But
if you don't follow Memento Mori on Twitter, you should.
What?
I said if you don't follow Memento Mori on Twitter, you should. It's literally a Twitter account that once a day tweets, "Someday you will die."
Just a friendly reminder. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, from a procreation perspective too, like getting back to kids, this idea that you have kids to continue your existence is bullshit because your child, the person you raised, is not you, right?
Correct.
It's not.
Yeah.
No, but here's the thing, and we all know this, is like if you are a parent and all you see your kid at is like ownership or property, like that's a concern. Like if you can't discern that your child is an independent existed like human, autonomous sovereign human, that's a concern. You need to reshuffle your priorities as a parent. And that's where you get into some really troubling places with kids, is that you get to a point where if you're a parent and you see your kids as ownership, you're teaching your kids the wrong lessons, and you're not letting your child grow in an authentic way. And some really damaging stuff happens during that process.
Well, you're teaching them that their lives do not belong to them.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And also just like not thinking of them as people. Like,
well, yeah.
It's like it's a tool to an end. Like it's not a person, it's a thing that's going to take care of you when you're older. It's not a person, it's a thing that's going to it's a thing that's going to achieve all the things you were not able to achieve. There's this great John Green quote from Paper Towns. It says, "What a treacherous thing to believe that a person is more than a person."
Right.
Because then you're placing all of these expectations on this creature that doesn't know how to exist, let alone live up to your expectations. And then when that doesn't happen, what?
Well, and didn't ask to exist in the first place.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't ask to exist.
No, none of us did. Right?
I don't know why I get so upset with that. Not upset, but like that line. Like, none of us exist. Yeah,
we're all not existing without our permission. Yeah. Yes, that is how it works, Kara.
Yeah.
We're
not blaming anybody.
I didn't sign
a
waiver.
I know, but it just sounds like that. Sometimes in my brain, I'm just like, duh. Like,
I'm not blaming my parents for having me. If
No.
they didn't have me, I wouldn't be in a position to blame them for anything.
Yeah.
Like, my brain switches a gear. I'm like, excuse me. Anyway, yeah. So it's.
I don't know what you're talking about. I signed a permission slip before I was born. Thank you.
I would
I've
like
always
to think
existed as just a bubbling mass of rage, and it was like forced into this meat sack and meat suit.
Fucking meat sacks.
Meat suit. Yeah.
A future corpse. Is that better?
Future corpse.
Corpse in potentia.
Rookie corpse, practicing corpse.
I'm sorry, I heard that, and then I just read Goki's thing of like, yes, some good nihilist
Oh yeah, the
conversation.
nihilist Arby's
Yeah.
Twitter account.
Yeah, just solid going on that.
Ugly bags,
Mostly
mostly water. Yeah,
water.
that's a good reference, Goki.
Yeah,
Thank you for that. Yeah.
I mean, I love the quote of first off, if you have not seen Everything Everywhere All at Once,
Yes.
go see this movie. I cannot tell you enough times to go watch it. Even if you don't like it, go watch it.
I saw it when I was in town.
That's right. Good. If I were to define a nihilist sense of like the philosophy of that makes me feel really comforting that was in that movie is there's a line where it says we are small and stupid, and I love it, and it just makes me so good, like in the heart parts. Anyway,
we aspire to be more, which is the thing that makes us human.
Yeah, I think what it defines in a nihilist sense is like we are so small in the consideration of the universe.
Oh yeah.
And our existence is so tiny and kind of stupid, but there's something great about that.
I don't see that as nihilist. I see that as realist, but because nihilism is literally in the universe. It's like the span of human existence is less than a blink.
Yeah, but in a nihilist term, your existence doesn't have the ramifications of a universal,
like a greater meaning.
A greater meaning, yeah.
As long as we're bringing these terms in, like my approach would be absurdist, as the great Albert Camus would talk about. Like the world's an absurd place. Like so much of what we experience is fucking absurd as shit, right? And so the only thing you can really do is sort of make your own meaning. So again, it's a tangentially related to existentialism. It's not existentialism. It's related, but not. But I guess that's where I'd stand. Absurdist.
Sounds like we got to do a philosophy night, and I need to read some shit.
I got books.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I stared at them for 5 years instead of actually reading them.
my very lucrative degree, by the way. I made so much money off my philosophy degree.
I actually have one of your books. I still have to give it back to you. I still haven't.
The plague,
There's lots of philosophical concepts I understand, but I often find myself whenever I get into conversations revolving around philosophy, I often end up just like shaking the person in front of me and being like, but it doesn't mean anything. None of it's
but it could mean something.
It's like people
it's
like people in theory. It's like it doesn't
but that's
but people don't actually act like that.
Lots of science is just theory based.
Yeah. But it's
you
about
asking the
questions
to find the solutions.
Right.
I get it. Anyway.
But also then like you talk about like the politics of philosophy and like who are the philosophers? Oh, a bunch of like, you know, when you talk about the great philosophers, they're all a bunch of white men. Yep. And like that modern philosophy is like sort of not a thing. And like, you know,
there's lots of modern. You gotta look, Des. There's lots of good philosophy coming.
Apparently, Joe Rogan is the main. Like,
oh, for fuck's sakes!
Main philosopher of our time.
You just said Voldemort on channel, Joe. Stop it.
For the record, fuck Joe Rogan. I guess. Just so we're clear, he's not a philosopher, not at all.
Talk about Joe Rogan. I don't even care enough.
He doesn't count.
Anyway, he can just do his thing in existence, and I don't want to hear about him.
I'm sorry I brought him up. I'm sorry.
God. Okay.
Sorry, I invoked the name.
that who shall not be named. I mean, there's a few of them out there, but we're not.
Whatever. He's just a guy.
Okay. First off,
we're way over 9 o'clock.
We're over time. So, how do we feel about the body autonomy / the kiddos conversations? Do we feel satisfied? Do we have other lingering thoughts?
I don't hate children, by the way. I don't know if anybody came away with that.
Oh yeah, I want to say I like kids. I actually like kids a lot. There's a lot of kids in my neighborhood that I really dig, and I make sure to like be very like also like even if you don't like kids and you're not like a person who ever sees yourself as a parent or a parental figure or even like a extracurricular sort of character to a child, like even if you don't see yourself in that way, be nice to kids.
Please
like
do.
they're just trying to learn how to be humans and their brains are not fully formed yet, and like you have no idea what's going on in their lives if you don't know them. Just be nice to kids even if they're being shitty.
And please and as long as we're doing PSAs, please do not treat them as adults. Yes, they deserve to be treated with autonomy and have their opinions respected, but please do not treat them as adults. Jesus, people are weird with kids. Like,
You end up like me.
sorry. It's not a comment aimed at Des. That was not a comment.
Yep.
I mean, it's a PSA, people.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I like this. This is all good. This is all good things. I'm just gonna linger on that for a little bit. It's fine. But
I just feel I had to make that comment because a lot of people who like fall with the quirky loan or like are not fully engaged in the whole like procreation process or spawning process, to quote Kara, feel like they have to make that comment where it's like if you're not enamored with the concept of becoming a parent, you have to qualify that it's not because I hate them, you know?
yeah.
There's it's just the thing.
Yeah, it's just a thing.
You for some reason in our brains, if you have decided that it is not a choice that you would personally make, then you must be fully against anybody else having that choice.
Exactly. Yeah.
To bring it back.
Yeah. And I'm not. They're great. I find them especially like in the age bracket when they stop being like tiny things that don't know how to, not die, to when they can like communicate with the world, like 4, 5, 6, 7. Their minds are amazing. As far like from a philosopher perspective, there is no mind more attuned to philosophy than the mind of a child. Because all they do, they're like, why is that? Why is that? Why is this? Why is that? And that is the essence, of rudimentary philosophy, is asking those questions,
My PSA add to
let's
this
let's hear this, Carrot.
I had to think about it. I was like, oh, they both took some of mine. I think it's really important for us to watch out for kids when we live in such an accelerated world. What we have to offer them is only a certain amount of information or education that we can offer, because every generation now is moving so fast forward. We just like, I think about kids born today and I'm like, you were growing up in a world so different from mine. Like, just so drastically different. Like, I was around when the internet didn't exist.
Well, I was going to say, we had to sign on to the internet.
Yes.
We had to deny ourselves phone service to get internet access.
The internet existed, just not in the global sense that it does today.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I do want to appreciate like the challenges that, new people are being brought into. It's a challenge.
Thanks, Alex.
But the other part is, and not to get too deep, mostly, again, I'm totally in my promotion mode. I had therapy today. That we have little humans in us always too. And, some of the challenges that we went through need a little bit of care. And there's never a time when you can't resolve some of that. So it's time to be nice to the little children version of you as well. So that's my PSA tonight.
Instead of doing that, can I just buy things?
No.
All right.
I mean, you could. I can't. Body autonomy of a choice autonomy. No, Des. You can't resolve your childhood trauma.
I must address my inner child. Yeah. I can't just buy things.
I'm seeking out control in my life, Des. So I had to learn to not refrain to put that on you. So there you go. Unless it's consensual, then that's a totally different conversation that we have to like explore within ourselves, Yeah.
Maybe my inner child wants to buy things.
Maybe. That's very valid.
My inner child definitely wants to buy things.
My
But I
inner
gotta
child
say,
just wants
no.
a hug, okay? Just stop
My
it.
inner child wants 12 more cats.
My
My
inner
inner
child wants a
child-
PS5. God damn it.
My inner child wants a better Wi-Fi connection. Thank you. Okay.
Well,
No.
that's easy enough. Come on, cat. You gotta aim higher.
No,
Your
PS5.
inner child was pre the internet.
yeah, I'm trying to think, like, what would my inner child actually want from a materialistic standpoint?
A
17
PS5.
more cats.
I didn't know cats were even an option, like, for a very long time because my
17 more
brother was allergic
hedgehogs.
to everything. Yeah, so, like, hedgehog here are our pets. Side note, I had the weirdest pets growing up. So, we had a hedgehog. Well, first, a fish. A singular fish. That fish probably died of loneliness, like, probably. Anyway,
I
the
had
second
several
was
fish
a
that died
hedgehog.
because we didn't change the water properly.
Oh,
So
probably. That
I'm
might have
sorry to
also
all
been
those
the
fish.
situation. Or I overfed it. I can't remember. Anyway, fish. Hedgehog. Hedgehog was a brilliant pet. Okay. Then we had a gecko, a leopard gecko. And then, which, like, if anyone knows, owning lizards is just like introducing crickets into your life, which is like the most irritating noise on the planet sometimes. Um,
I can see that. Yeah.
and then I had gerbils, which did not last very long.
They don't
And then
really.
my mother bought a cat, and then I was like, "Oh shit! Like we can actually own bigger animals. This is cool."
Is this what we wanted when we were 7? Yeah, Zen. Let's hit it. Let's hit it up in chat. Let's do it. Last 9 minutes.
I've had several cats, several dogs. We had an entire aquarium of fish, and it was like 20 plus fish. I've had leopard geckos.
Oh
I've had a Knowles, which is a different kind of lizard. I've had an iguana. I've had parakeets. We've bred cats, hamsters. I don't think I ever actually had a gerbil. We had rabbits, rats, and then we bred kittens for several years.
I've only ever experienced vicariously a dog and a hamster through a best friend when I was in elementary school. That was it. Actually, Halibut has a hedgehog and a cat, I think. Or mouse? Is that a mouse or cat?
A hamster. Looks like a hamster.
Huh?
Like
No, the one's a
hamster.
hamster. What's the other one?
It's a hedgehog. Hedgehog. Yeah, they come up. They show up differently in restream than they do on stream. It's very clearly a hedgehog and a hamster on the other one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so that's little Kara is just little Kara just wants to be left to roam the mountains and be one with the pikas and have people adventure with me and be like, this is cool. Okay, that's
I want my goddamn PS5. That's all I want.
fine. You gotta collect your allowance to purchase that though, Joe. So
Yeah.
I'm trying, but they won't pay me anymore right now. So saving my pennies. I got a good tax return, so maybe I'll use it for that. I still gotta find somebody to sell me one, so that's the thing.
Oh
Yeah, that's
for
also a thing.
supplies, though.
Yeah.
The guy who bought me one got in line at Walmart, or like not physically in line, but like online at Walmart. So Walmart.
Yeah.
In our area at least, it was like one was coming up every few weeks or something.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm on so many wait lists for it. So yeah.
Okay.
If it knows, hook me up. Let's just say.
In Calgary.
In
Calgary.
Wherever. I'll wire you the actual cost for it. I will not pay more than what it's rated. So
plus shipping.
Plus shipping. Yeah.
See. Okay. Any other comments about the topics that we have discussed this evening?
Not our inner child.
I mean, that could be a whole other stream talking about inner child stuff.
Talk about inner child stuff.
Oh
Oh man, let's do
the therapy stream.
Yeah, let's just get real deep. Let's do
intergenerational trauma stream. Fuck.
Yes. No, we'll do one on inner child and shadow work.
Oh shit! Actually, put it on the list. That's a good one. That's some good
really
stuff.
Depressing.
That one's gonna be like, you got to be prepared to walk in on that one. Because
Okay, so I'm gonna a little inside baseball again. I like whenever we're doing topics, if we do like an incredibly heavy topic for like the next time's topic to be not so heavy.
this is
Uh, so
That's a
like
good thought,
maybe
yeah.
not the next one because I feel like abortion's kind of a heavy topic.
it's very heavy. Yeah,
So we're
let's do
also
something fun.
yeah, let's do something fun next time. But also, we're always looking for ideas. You can join our Discord for any
Kara, drop that link again.
yeah.
Oh, it's
Kara,
right there. Yep.
drop that link. If you're not already a part of our Discord,
Doesn't work, Kara.
I think you fixed it, didn't you?
I thought I fixed it. Didn't I fix it?
I don't know.
Someone click it. Find out.
Someone click the Discord link.
Oh, fuck. I wonder if my Nightbot
If
is
you are not already a part of our Discord, please feel free to join our Discord. We're just a weird little community of gamer nerds being adorable on the internet. Joe and Kara do a show every week, 2NPC on Sunday nights, schedules depending. And Joe and Kara do individual streams. Eventually, I will get back to doing individual streams when I feel like I have the fucking energy. And we have our own little LessThan3NPC channel for people to talk about whatever this week's topic or past week's topics, or to suggest new topics. We're constantly on the lookout for new topics, both like serious and like quasi-serious. Like we had a whole 2.5 hours on love, and it was like goofy as fuck. It was fun.
I don't
so
believe in love.
But yeah,
Kara,
so
we'll address that in the therapy stream. We'll address that in the therapy stream.
so therapy stream will be sometime in the future. Maybe we'll just do an individual therapy stream for all of us. It'll be like Kara's therapy stream, and then Joe's therapy stream,
No,
and then my
I do not consent to this. That is
I feel like
too
Kara's
much.
got a lot to unpack.
Don't you want to do therapy in public?
No,
Yeah.
see, here's the thing. You know what? The fact that we even have this show is the thing, okay? Because there's like no direct poignant, like if you both dropped out of stream right now, I would just exit. Like I wouldn't say anything at all. I just like full out cut. Joe.
How dare you?
How dare you?
You don't want to carry the stream, Kara?
No. Any like direct contact with like very sensitive conversation can be very intimidating. Okay. So if there are people out there who can hold a serious conversation like we do by themselves on a regular basis.
Yeah, I don't know that I could.
I
don't know that I think I'm that interesting.
Well, and I appreciate the back and forth that we have, you know,
Yeah.
between the three of us. You know,
Yes.
like I love conversing with people, but especially with friends. You know, I think that's really cool that we get to do this on this channel. You know.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody's opinion is important.
Yeah. So we don't know what our next one is going to be yet. Because we, just like every time, we'll figure it out probably the day before we go live.
Probably.
Definitely did for this one.
We definitely did. Definitely not decide on this topic this morning. Anyways, so let us know if you have any ideas. The next stream, I believe, is going to be on my channel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So next stream will be on my channel. We now have a YouTube channel and a Twitter account, which I should have had those links prepped. I did last time, did not this time.
We can put it in the Discord. It's okay.
I'm gonna put it in chat.
Okay. Yeah. Joe, let's fill the time while Des searches.
I see you posted koala drinks in there. I was gonna post Sobe.
Yeah.
drinks.
Who else remembers Koala Pop? Okay. Like.
Oh, I hate
was
that
a
I
thing.
can't.
It was a
I can't actually copy paste things into the chat unless I'm in Twitch. That's annoying.
Do you want to just send it to me and I'll send it in?
No.
Okay.
No. Please go subscribe to us on YouTube. We support. Okay, connecting to the chat room. Thank you. Please go subscribe to us on YouTube. We appreciate the views, and also if you haven't seen past episodes, all of our past episodes are up on YouTube. And also our Twitter handle is at LessThan3NPC without the less than symbol. It's like spelled out.
Because stuff is weird.
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
won't let me put symbols inside of usernames, and I didn't super think about that whenever I proposed the name.
Well, at least
held
it's
it.
written out. It's fine. It's all good. It's a very millennial name, I have to say, but we're
Held
owning
it.
it.
Orange
Okay.
Sobe, that was my go-to. Because it was
Hey,
like
I'm
orange juice and
disappointed
carrot.
by no one else
so.
is being like, yeah, the koala drinks.
Is that a
Koala
Canadian
was-
thing?
Koala was fine, but it was Sobe though. That was
No.
the way to go.
I don't know what either of those two things are.
Koala, it was just like this very fruity, highly carbonated beverage.
Yeah, it was very carbonated. Yeah.
And I had this weird memory today where I was having lunch, and I don't know why my brain went there, but I thought about this place I used to go to in the city that I grew up in, and they always had this pop, and I always like insistent as a child, and I was thinking about this little Kara. I was like, I have to have this with my dinner. But it doesn't exist anymore. So I was like having this reminiscent moment. I'm like, I'll never be able to taste that again in my life. It was very
Maybe you
sad.
can find someone who's still got a pallet on eBay.
I would not trust
I've seen people who've done that.
the state of that sugary beverage at that point.
Well, yeah, you probably couldn't drink it because at that point it'd probably be alcoholic.
Oh yeah, it'd
kidding.
be not well. It'd be not good at all. Anyway, but yeah, koala drinks. If that was your thing, know that it was also a thing for me. It's fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, but Sobe was like it wasn't an energy drink, but some of them had
No.
caffeine in it. But it was
No,
just juice.
I think I do remember Sobe actually, but I
Yeah.
don't think I
It
ever
had like a
drank it.
lizard thing on the top.
Yes,
Yep,
I do remember
I
Sobe.
posted it in Food Pixels, so you can
Oh, you
have
did.
a look.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
orange one, it was carrot and other fruit juices. So that was
Right.
my main
I
thing.
thought Snapple was still around though.
No,
Isn't
Snapple's
Snapple
still around. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Snapple's
It's just not the thing. Snapple had like all these like presences on things like that. So
yeah,
Yeah,
Snapple had a
Sobe
moment.
did have the coolest bottles.
I think Sobe is still a thing too.
It
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can still find it.
I'm talking about stuff that doesn't exist anymore, people. Come on.
Kara went full like what's the word?
Anyways,
Were you gonna say like Valley Girl or something?
No,
like that?
hipster. Full
Oh,
hipster.
hipster. Oh, wow.
My
I
stuff
like
doesn't
it.
exist anymore.
Yeah.
So.
my
Where's
favorite
the
soda
vinyl?
doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, okay. Anyway, can we do a 3NPC beverage stream? I would love to do that.
Get it stream. Get out of here.
Like-
Alex. Get out
Like
of here.
Des can do America specific beverages. I'll do like specific
This is a monster.
non-alcoholic, and then Joe can do alcoholic Canadian stuff. It'll be great.
I don't know any American specific drinks. I guess
Oh,
I wouldn't know
there's
if they weren't
lots.
American specific.
I don't really drink
Right.
Canadian specific.
Did you eat the
alcohol stuff.
Smarties yet?
Yeah,
And we never got your review.
that's because they kind of tasted like old M&Ms.
Oh fuck no! They're so much better than anyway. Okay, we're not gonna have that discussion on stream. Okay, that's a side convo, and we're gonna have to really break that down.
Love you.
I don't believe in love. Okay. Anyway, fuck. Therapy has changed me today. Candy Wars. That's also a very good idea. I like that.
Stream has devolved. We're into
All
Candy
right.
Sorry.
Wars
Okay,
now.
Yes,
Yeah.
we got to wrap this up. This is just like turning into chaos, which is like not terrible, but anyway.
Maybe we'll do like a chaos night where like we just have like 6 different topics and we only have
shit.
we only have 20
Like
minutes
speed
for
Like
dating.
a rapid fire
Yeah.
thing.
like
Yeah.
we only have 20 minutes for
Speed
each
date
topic and
topic.
that's it.
Isn't that called a pechakucha? There's a thing.
Oh, what?
The puchakecha. It's a corporate thing. It's like
Sure, Kara.
I
You
have no
bet.
idea what that is.
Yep.
no,
got it.
someone's gotta know
Yep,
what I'm
it's-
talking about.
No,
It's like
Kara's, no, I don't think you're right.
Specifically, a model of presentation where you have 6 minutes to talk about a presentation.
I believe you, Kara. I believe you.
Uh-huh. I'm sure
Anyway,
that's the thing.
recenter. Thank you, corporate Calgary, for all those great things you've taught me.
I work in
Yeah, okay. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. I know it's
Thanks,
been
people.
an experience. But yeah, we always appreciate everyone's comments and stuff, and that keeps the community kind of involved and growing and wanting to make sure that people's voices are heard. And thank you for making it very civil and sharing stuff about yourselves.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn cool. I'm gonna say good night. This is nighttime here. Also for Des, it's like way late.
It's almost tomorrow.
It's almost tomorrow. Yeah, but we'll see you on the next one. Okay. I say cool, stay cool and stay strong. I can say that because I'm hosting tonight.
Yeah, it's your sign off.
So that's my sign off.
Good night.
Bye.
I have no cool sign off.
Oh, you'll work on it. You'll find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coming to you.
Yeah.
Farewell. Farewell, everyone.
Night, y'all.